Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everybody.
Bienvenue.
Welcome.
Dernière réunion
It's
ordinaire.
our last regular public meeting for this council. The election will be next Monday.
Premièrement, comme toujours,
First of all, as always, I would like to acknowledge that we gather on the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people, whose ancestors signed a treaty of peace and friendship with the British Crown in the 1700s. So, Mr. Clerk, we do have quorum once again. And are there any members of the council who would like to declare a conflict of interest to anything on the agenda today? No, none. I see none. In terms of approval of agenda, the only thing, well, it's not really an item, but before we're done the meeting, I will speak. It is my last time as mayor. So a motion to approve the agenda as presented, moved by Councillor Joël Desplessis, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. All those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Number 5, adopting the minutes. It's the minutes of the April 7th meeting. You've had the opportunity to become acquainted with it. We need a motion to adopt the minutes, moved by Councillor Joël Desplessis, seconded by Councillor Patricia Bourque-Chevary. Any questions on the minutes? Councillor Paul Boudreau. Yes, Your Worship. Looking at the minutes, thank you for sending them. The item requests for information from council members, number 13, I believe. Yes. April 7th, I'd asked a few questions. One of them, the CAO answered well on the Shediac-Dieppe Trail. I'd also asked a question about the possibility of getting a document or some communique to promote the work that will be upcoming this summer. Was there any movement on that last month in terms of the work done? I'd mentioned it in the April 7th meeting. Yes. I do see mention of it in the minutes. We can update it when it comes time. It's not in the minutes. I see. Well, could we add that element? It's just a question if in terms of it moved or not. I'm not aware. It's not a question period per se when you're adopting the minutes. Thanks for highlighting that. We can correct the minutes based on what you just said. And we'll come back to you on that point as well. Thank you. So, shoreline and shoreline trail and communication plan for the scope of public work over the course of this season. Thank you, Councillor Boudreau. So, all those in favor shall say aye. Those who are against, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. We have 2 presentations tonight, one from Mr. Jamie Burke from Stantec. He was doing the land use planning services. Mr. CAO, if you'd like to introduce him, I'll give Jamie the time to come closer to get ready. I will say it in English if it's fine. Jamie is doing his presentation in English.
A motion that was passed a while ago to look at planning services with Plan 360 to analyze 2 specific things. One being what would it cost to set up our own planning services, and secondly, would there be potential partners to look at that. And obviously there's a recommendation that Jamie is going to make in his report. We provided the report to you in your council packages. I know it's quite extensive and you may not have read it, but Jamie's going to go over the grandes lignes, the high-level topics of it, and obviously if there's any questions from council, we can proceed with questions back then. So Jamie Burke from Stantec.
Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you, Yves, and good evening, Your Worship and members of the council. It's a pleasure to be back here talking about a different subject tonight, but another important one. We always start our presentations with a safety moment. So just briefly, just a reminder of digital fatigue, that we're often on our screens a lot. both at home and in our work lives, and that has a major impact on our ability to concentrate and our overall well-being. So just a brief reminder to disconnect. If it's work-related, send emails after work. Try to put your phone down and laptop, iPad down after work, and take a moment to breathe and be with family and friends. And it's good and healthy. So next slide, please.
Very good.
So just briefly, what I'm going to cover a variety of topics, basically one per slide. I'm going to try and do this as quickly as we can. So I'll talk a little bit about the purpose, the legislative and regulatory context that Planning and Development Services operates in. We'll touch on a brief overview of the Plan 360 services and then move on to planning activity and service demand. I'll talk briefly about financial performance and the value of the planning services and development services that you receive. And then I'll finish off that section with just touching quickly on growth and development and future service pressures that we would anticipate in this region. And then the last 3 slides will focus on staffing capacity, and what's really important is the cost of establishing your own planning department. And then moving on to transitional risks and alternatives, and the risks are really important. And then we'll finish with conclusions and recommended directions. Go to the next slide. Good. So overall, I guess what the review looked at, it really did a deep dive on Plan 360. And we've got 2 of the fine gentlemen here tonight, and both Jeff and Phil were very helpful as part of this exercise, providing us with a variety of information from Plan 360 to allow us to do our work. So we looked at the need for services, the cost and staffing, and the overall service quality that you're receiving, and we did some consultation, which I'll touch on. And we looked at overall the feasibility of creating a town-run planning and development department was the ultimate mandate. And I guess why this matters? Well, we know that municipalities want control over their planning services. Generates wealth that ends up turning into property tax revenue, which allows you to do more things, which we know is really, really important, particularly when development activity is really busy. We want developers to be getting the attention that they need, and that's understandable. And ultimately, planning capacity directly affects the housing delivery and the investment, and importantly, timelines in order to get those permits out the door. You can go to the next slide. So just quickly, in terms of the legislative context, the Regional Service Delivery Act has been around since 2013 when they reevaluated planning and development services back in the day and got rid of those old commissions and established regional service commissions. And some municipalities at that point in time went off and established their own planning departments. The City of Moncton, the City of Dieppe, St. John, Fredericton, there's a handful of others, but most went with regional service commissions. And Shediac, of course, is one of those. So you can leave. The Regional Service Delivery Act indicates that municipalities can leave, but, and it's a big but, you need to be able to provide proof of capacity to the provincial planning director. So that's a call that they would make to say the services that are mandated under the Community Planning Act and Building Code Administration Act are adequate. There's a responsibility to pay for any withdrawal costs, and I'll talk a little bit later on in the presentation about what some of those costs may be, and they can be significant. There's a requirement for 2 years notice. And then lastly, there's a requirement for provincial approval. And by provincial, I use the capital M, the minister, for to ensure that leaving the commission won't have a risk to the viability of the organization from a planning development services perspective. So that's also important to keep in mind. And those costs we can't quantify. Right. So just like putting those out there in the report to let you know that there's other things other than salaries and benefits and office space and those things that you need to be mindful of. Okay. So I guess why does that matter? Well, you can't just leave unilaterally and quickly. Municipalities often say that it's a big bill. We don't agree with the service delivery that we're getting. We're going to leave. Well, it's not that easy. Withdrawal costs and timelines must be factored into overall decision making if there was going to be any type of an appetite to establish your own planning department. And lastly, the province can block that withdrawal if they disagree with it or they think there's going to be a major financial impact to the organization. So what does Plan 360 provide? They provide a lot. They provide land use planning and zoning. So if you think about your rezonings, your municipal plan amendments, your new municipal plans, all that administration, they do that. They issue development permits, and again, handle rezoning applications and municipal plan amendments. They do subdivision approvals, which Jeff Boudreau is mainly responsible for. They do building inspections under the Building Code Administration Act and the National Building Code. They organize and administer the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee, or what we call a PRAC. They have very sophisticated GIS and mapping support, including asset management support, and importantly, they offer a bilingual service, which for a municipality like yours is critical. So who's service? They do 11 out of the 13 municipalities that they do business with on solid waste, the exception being the city of Moncton and city of Dieppe. And I guess what you get from them currently for the $600 and some thousand that you pay them is a full turnkey planning system, and replacing that is a significant lift. And there's some risks associated with that, which we'll talk about here momentarily. So we'll just take a quick snapshot, I guess, of planning activity. And this is the volume that was indicated when we completed the report, was based on 2024 numbers, because that's what the Regional Service Commission's annual report was approved and available. But there's, almost 700 planning requests processed region-wide. Of the 146 applications processed for Shediac, 21.1% of all applications are coming from this region, which is the highest. You can see some of the what's driving the volume are zoning confirmations, subdivisions, and complaints. But there's a lot of other things, like a rezoning process, as you know, takes hours and hours and days and weeks and sometimes months or years. So that doesn't really get accounted for in the statistics. Permits are increasing. We know that. You can look at the far right of the screen. We know development activity is increasing. Populations are increasing. We're starting to see a bit of a slowdown because of the federal immigration policy changes and provincial changes, but still building activity is still remaining very, very strong comparatively when you look across Canada. So overall, in terms of your cost versus value, in 2024, you paid $547,354. And if you look at the 2025 numbers, that was $631,430. Basically, you get back the permit revenue that the commission generates. And in 2025 was anticipated that you would get the whole freight of what you would have paid in 2024 back, which was $574,000 for a net cost to the town of Shediac of $56,000, which is a heck of a deal. Go to the next slide there, Samantha. So in terms of staffing capacity, there was a 2023 labor market study and workforce strategy report completed by the New Brunswick Association of Planners. And that really capitalized on the planning labor market across the province, which is really struggling. And if you talk to anybody across the province who's trying to hire people, myself included, we just spent over a year trying to hire a very senior person in Halifax, and it gets more difficult the further out you go into rural communities and then bilingual communities. It gets very difficult to find registered professional planners or planners who are able to obtain that certification, or level 1, 2, or 3 building inspectors or seasoned development officers. So it's extremely, extremely hard to find these people. But you can just see some of the statistics there from that report on the left-hand side of the screen. 75% of employers were relying on external consultants like me. 70% reported difficulty meeting deadlines due to staffing shortages. And there was, at that point in time, there were 37 vacancies across the province for planners. So I guess we looked at the numbers and we compared the development activity in the commission versus some of your peers, and we kind of boiled it down to how many positions would you need to be able to maintain a planning and development department. And we basically have said you'd need a planning director, which is a mandated responsibility under the Community Planning Act. You need at least one planner, one development officer, a minimum of 2 building inspectors, a GIS technician, and likely an office administrator for 7 positions. So that's 7 positions. That provides no flexibility or coverage in the event that really somebody's off on vacation. So there's that succession planning and backfilling where the development community, when we talked to them, that was something that they raised very, very frequently and were very vocal about, that they like the idea of when you're with the commission, somebody goes away or somebody leaves, that there is that coverage. You can go to the next slide there. So in terms of I guess what would it cost to establish your own department? Well, we've got it about $800,000, and I would just caution to say that's a very conservative number. We didn't inflate salaries. Salaries are continuing to rise. We know what general costs on real estate, licensing software, et cetera. All of that is increasing. So I'd say just kind of keep that in mind. We tried to give a reasonable estimate of what we thought a department would cost. But so you can see the costs are outlined in the report, but overall it's about $795,000 or around the $800,000 mark, and that's compared to your 2025 contract of $631,000 that you paid in, or your 2026, which saw about a $50,000 increase with Plan 360 to $681,005. So I guess why would this matter to council? Well, a town department would cost about 20% more annually than what your current Plan 360 arrangement would be. Staffing risks are high and ongoing. It's not just a one-time startup cost. You have to think if you're looking to hire these people and start your own planning department, you don't want people who are fresh out of school, right? You want people who are going to be able to get in the seat, evaluate those permits and get them out the door, because that's what the development community wants, and that's what most municipalities are looking for. And any disruption, so turnover, illness, hiring delays, terminations, et cetera, would definitely in fact impact the permit timelines, housing delivery, and overall enforcement, which is also important. So just briefly here, feedback from the development community. We spent a morning meeting with your local developers, which Jonathan and Danny helped arrange, and what we heard from them about what was working was staff professionalism and expertise, improved consistency over the years. There was a depth of knowledge amongst the team. There was overall better data management and maintenance from their perspective. And I guess we weren't expecting this or the response from the local development community, but it was overwhelming that they felt that Plan 360 should be delivering the planning development services. I'll be completely honest. That's what they said. That wasn't what we originally thought when we walked in the room. We thought it might be more critical, which is often the case. Takes too long. They're not quick enough to get back and get the permits out the door. There was none of that. They did indicate, had we asked them 5 years earlier about what their opinions would be, it may have changed. But there's been a built-up capacity and a depth of knowledge amongst the commission staff that the development community felt comfortable with that, and they wanted to make sure that was stressed. In addition to meeting with the developers, we also met with your staff members just to get their opinions, because engineering, economic development, the CAO, et cetera, they also meet with Plan 360 staff. And overall, there were some concerns raised about staff retention would lead to knowledge gaps in the event that you were to establish your own department. There is a need amongst Plan 360 for a clear triage system in terms of the bigger permits should get the priority, not the decks and the pools and those things, especially when you're in a housing crisis. Lots of red flags on the significant upfront investment, 100% need for bilingual staff, and overall, I guess I don't want to say this is a criticism, but it was an observation that there was a suggestion that there could be better communication between Plan 360 and the commission and the town staff. And I think, you got to take that a bit of a grain of salt. I mean, we can always improve communication, and these developments are big, they're complex, there's engineering components, there's planning components, there's billing code components. So we can see how some of that communication may be difficult to get to the right people efficiently. You can go to the next slide. So just lastly here, I think I have two slides left. That I just wanted to talk a little bit about those risks. And we have to highlight the 2-year notice period under the Regional Service Delivery Act to leave. And then I talked one of the opening slides about that you may have to cover the cost of exiting or the withdrawal, I guess, as the legislation refers to in those transition costs. And that could be severance, that could be lease terminations, or it could be commission restructuring impacts. So again, those are, we can't quantify those. So the $780,000, $800,000 figure does not include the costs that are noted in the Regional Service Delivery Act. I just want to make sure that's clear. And then ultimately the province can deny that if they think that the impact will be too significant to the Regional Service Commission. We called the province to see if they could give us a ballpark. They didn't have any examples. Right, so they said we don't know what these costs could be. So if somebody does leave, then we'll know what they are. But they couldn't give us actual numbers to include in the report. So in terms of, I guess, what can you do? That you can continue with Plan 360 while clarifying service expectations and priorities, continuing to improve coordination and communication protocols. And I know that's been improving, given the kind of the new planning structure that you have in place, and or establishing service benchmarks and regular performance reviews or check-ins, just so that everybody's on the same page. And then there are opportunities for collaboration. If you were to establish your own planning department, you can contract that services with. I think in the report we pointed to Cap Palais, Cap-Acadie, excuse me, they're your closest neighbor. So instead of them getting their services from Plan 360, they could get them from the town of Shediac. What the development community said about that was that, well, now we're just creating 2 commissions, and said, we're not really helping the region. So you have to keep that in mind as well. So in terms of conclusions, I guess the decision to deliver planning development services internally or versus Plan 360 is largely a question of control. But generally, what our work has indicated is that providing in-house planning services is most definitely going to result in a higher overall cost to the town, especially with those one-time transition expenses and ongoing administration and operational costs of maintaining a new department. There's no doubt about it. The staffing and succession planning are significant. Plan 360 has recruited in France. Like it is that hard to find people. So it's one thing to say we're going to establish our own planning departments, and okay, when we need to put bums in seats to be able to do the work, and that is really going to be a major challenge, especially to find people with shared knowledge and the depth of knowledge, the experience that some of the planners in our region currently have. So. We again picking up, I guess again I want to say criticism, but the one observation of kind of improving collaboration and communication was I guess the one takeaway if things do stay the way they are, and I think there's certainly been some dialogue about that already. But I guess the recommendation from our firm that you see in the report would be that you're getting a heck of a deal with Plan 360. To leave and create your own planning department, you need to be able to meet the minimum requirements of the Community Planning Act, which is what the provincial planning director is going to look for. But you're getting lots of value-added services from the commission as well. And I think that's important to keep in mind.
Well, thank you, Mr. Burke. I'm sure there'll be some questions. And just before I'll turn over to the CAO, since he's apparently got something to add. This was a question that has come up at council on a number of occasions, like how much would it cost? What would be involved? And it's like, well, and our best guess was no clue. So we decided that, look, we're going to make an effort. We're going to find some expertise to give us a review of that, so council can then make an informed decision. And for that, we thank you much. This is very clear in terms of what, you're comparing actual costs to projected costs. And you're also saying, well, there's some unknowns here and, they're not $5 either, kind of thing. So I thank you for that. The question that I have, and it's something maybe you can answer in terms of folks may have the idea that our own planning staff, well, then council would control that.
Yeah.
Better, could tell somebody. I, as mayor, I can't make somebody get a building permit. And even if it was within town staff, I don't think I could do that. Am I right?
Your worship, if I may, you're 100% accurate. I mean, as a registered professional planner, you have ethical responsibility to your organization, and sometimes we know what the political temperature is in the room, but ultimately you stick to your principles and you make a decision like other professionals do, engineers, lawyers. That's why you hire and pay professional people to manage the growth and development in your community. So you're absolutely right.
So in the sense of more control, how much are you talking about there? Essentially, if the only thing on the planning staff's plate is town of Shediac developer requests, I mean, you're not competing against somebody who's also got some other thing on their plate from the town of Tantramar or wherever. That's the only measure of control that you really have, is just you're separating this on a separate plate, basically. That's how I see it. Would there be other things?
I would say that would be the main one. The second would be that you would have your own planning advisory committee.
Yeah,
and they would be all appointments from the town of Shediac.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to that, right? One is that, well, they know our community, they should be deciding, but they're still small communities and things get personal.
Yeah.
And it's not that easy to find volunteers, especially qualified volunteers, because these can be very complex, sensitive, and sometimes upsetting decisions that pracs have to make.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you. Monsieur Lejeune.
I think obviously I just wanted to answer any questions that you may have, but I just wanted to add to Jamie's point where he referenced that, if you asked 5 years ago how things were going, the opinion might have been different than what it is today. And I think some of the mechanisms that staff have put into place with a planning department, with a planning committee, sorry. So, our planning or our economic development and tourism department have a committee that we know months in advance when a project is even before hitting Plan 360. We have a dialogue with the various developers that have projects, and we're sort of acting, I don't want to call it a one-stop shop, but at that table, it's not just staff from the town of Shediac. There's staff from the GSSE, there's staff from Plan 360, there's the engineering department as well. So when we're talking about a specific project, before it actually gets a permit issued, we've probably answered all the questions, all the requirements they need, whether it's a drainage plan or it's a subdivision agreement or a rezoning, or we know far in advance before it even gets here. So I think some of the frustrations that might have existed 5 years ago created the internal committee that helped offset some of these treatment of certain files. And I will just give an example. Throughout this process, we included Kapakadi in our process because Kapakadi were seeing a lot of the frustrations that we had maybe a few years ago, and they have now implemented a similar type of internal committee, and they see the benefits and how we've been able to manage our files more efficiently, how we've been able to alleviate some of the frustrations that might have existed in the past. So they've seen it as a recipe on how to improve. And I think, when Jamie says there's two things, there's communication and control. On the communication side, that's what this internal committee provides. It's a forum where all the different stakeholders that are partaking in one particular project have a forum to discuss. Yes, there's a capacity issue on the GSEC side, or there's an agreement, or so it's that collaboration was created out of necessity, and it is working now. And to Jamie, when he called me after the developers meeting and he says, Eve, we were surprised. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's really what they said. I was surprised as well, because I think we were all anticipating a backlash of this needs to change, but they've admitted that there's consistency in dealing with one commission versus dealing with numerous different commissions. You know, when a developer interacts in Shediac or in Kapakadi, he might have a project in Dieppe and in Moncton. Well, he's dealing with 3 different commissions. He didn't want to deal with the potential 4th. And when Jamie talked about the retention, that's a conversation that I had with Sebastian over the number of years. How do you make sure, you know, we're lucky we have Phil that comes to our meeting, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of different faces other than Phil over the last year. They've done a active recruitment strategy that we now have to undertake if it were our own commission. So there were some valuable points that I wasn't expecting and wasn't thinking about when we first transitioned the report, but there were some key findings that helped us better understand the landscape and also some of the recommendations that were made. So
Thank you. Questions? Councillor McEnroy.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly understand the report and its recommendations. And I don't think, certainly I never contemplated replacing Plan 360, but adding to it, like coming up with a hybrid kind of thing whereby right now you mentioned more than once, get the permits out the door, get the taxes, get the permits out the door, get the taxes. The residents are saying, whoa, what about the integrity of how we feel about our town, how we want to retain seaside characteristics? We want to make sure that, like St. Andrews, New Brunswick, and other areas, there are other constraints. It's not just a professional planner saying such and such, or speed up the process of rezoning so we can go from R2 to R3 quickly and we can generate more money in permits. You know, what about a hip roof on a building instead of flat top, flat top, flat top? Who's looking out for that? That's why I think there needs to be some input at some level from the town, whether it's a secondment of a planner so that we have all the vast expertise of Plan 360. And I don't doubt that I've had years of experience with them, and I have the highest regard for their operation. It's just that myself, the residents, I'm pretty sure that I speak with at least, are worried about what's happening. And it's not development. It's development helter-skelter. It's rezonings while you're undertaking a municipal development plan review, which is the time when developers will come looking for them because they don't want to risk not being able to get that zone once that plan review is over. Something to kind of keep the focus on the interests of the town versus the professional planning process that we know we can't replicate, and it wouldn't make sense to try to replicate, but we need to add something to it. We need somehow to figure out a way, whether it's architectural input. As I mentioned, there are many towns that you go to a McDonald's, you don't see a huge M, you see a little M, and you may see Cape Cod's siding on the building or something, because that's the nature that those places want to retain. And there are a lot of our residents that want to retain that for Shediac. So maybe our next step might be to look at how can we adjunct or add on or somehow ensure that what we want is being addressed by, or that we can put regulations in place that are different from the regulations in the rest of Southeast New Brunswick, except for St. Andrews.
Yeah.
So maybe you could comment on that as a potential down the road kind of a thing, some way to address those kinds of concerns.
Yeah. Your Worship, if I may, Councillor, thank you for the question. It's a good one. And I mean, anybody who's been to Freeport, Maine, and you've driven through, you know, the McDonald's doesn't look like the McDonald's like where I'm in Sackville. They have urban design and heritage guidelines, and you just can't do it. So you're absolutely right. There are many ways where the town could, you know, kind of supplement the work that's being done at Plan 360, or over time, Plan 360 may bring on, or maybe they bring on an urban designer somebody who has, that's the lens that they bring to each one of the projects. So there's a variety of ways to do it. Lots of communities have architectural design guidelines that then, Plan 360 would administer. There's heritage professionals that can come on board or strict urban designers. So there's a variety of ways to do that could certainly supplement the evaluation process that's being undertaken now. The one thing I would say is that over the years, because our region has been growing so quickly, having been kind of in the trenches, like with Phil and my time with the Greater Moncton Planning Commission, where we would be 4 hours at a PAC meeting, a commission meeting, with 21 commissioners and almost 30 items on the agenda. We were just trying to like keep pace with the development that was coming in the door. We didn't have any staff that were really focused on long range planning. Right. And I think that's really started to catch up now, where we're starting to see, Plan 360. We've certainly seen some of the other municipalities kind of shore up the long range planning with the development planning perspective, because those two things need to work hand in hand. Because you're 100% right. Like, great to get all those permits out the door, but if that's not representing the aspirations and values of the community, then it's really not doing its job, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Conseiller Roland-Cormier.
Thank you, Monsieur le Maire. Could you go to slide 9 out of 13?
On cost implications?
Yep. Compared to 631 and 681, the 25-26 budgets, where did you get those numbers?
I believe the 631 is from the annual report that's online for the Southeast Regional Service Commission, and I'd have to double check where 681 545. Eve, is that
that would be our that would be our budgeted amount that we adopted last year.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that is just a minute. If you go to the special meeting of the October 29, 25.
Last October.
Yeah.
Okay.
The budget that was presented to us at that time was 815. So there's $130,000 difference.
Yeah, that might include other services of other regional service commission mandated services. It might not only be planning services.
Well,
and
the budget line seems to be saying differently, but I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah. Excuse. Madam Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was like 5 or 6 lines included in that 815,000.
Okay.
It's
No, it's fine. Okay.
Like CSL Transport, CSL Développement Social.
The other mandates.
Okay.
Transportation and social development.
Because I was reading that and saying they're.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Merci.
And I apologize. I was thinking we were still in 2025.
No, it's fine.
Or 2025.
I'm really happy that we did go and get kick the can to see what we had, what it would cost or not cost. Now we know we can answer our citizens that yes, we've gone there.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting. I shouldn't say that we're getting a good deal, because if we say we're getting a good deal, they might increase the cost. So we're getting an acceptable.
We won't tell them.
We're getting the acceptable services for the acceptable price. I'll say that. I'm happy with the report. Thank you very much.
Just a thought, further to Councillor Cormier's question, regional planning, which is something that Plan 360 must do no matter what, even if we left and whatnot. Would that be reflected in that 681 in their costs there, or would it be in addition to that? Just kind of curious.
The regional planning would be in addition to the 631.
In addition, I went.
No, I think
Would be included?
I think it would be included in the 631, but it would not be included in the 794. Maybe you did not include that number.
Yeah, I'd have to check.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because irregardless of whether we buy their planning services or not, there's a regional planning component that we need to be part of. So
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it might have been one of those itemized services.
Might have been.
It's one of the extra items.
It's
that-
one of the, in the 815 number.
Yes,
Okay.
we're paying
Would make sense.
16,953 for that.
Because I know on the part of the regional planning commission, they do separate that in the budget and whatnot. This is for the regular planning services, and this is for the regional planning services, so to speak. All right.
But it's a good point because you have to pay for that too,
Yeah.
so it isn't.
It's not as if you
That's
you
right.
can recover. Well,
Yeah.
you're going to continue to pay them no matter what.
Yeah.
Or at least some of those services. Councillor Paul Boudreau.
Yes, thank you. An excellent document. This helps us make good decisions. It would be nice to have the same document in a couple of years for a policing service. Same, we can compare people and services and costs. And on the bigger document they gave us, we recommend on the recommendation. After that, a cultural shift or change was strongly suggested. What's a cultural shift?
So, so that was really focused on the, I guess one of the things that we heard, and I'll be completely honest, when we talked to developers and staff, was that sometimes if you ask the question to Plan 360, the response is, no, you can't do that. And it wasn't that you can't do that, but if you change the design or you do X, Y, and Z, you could accomplish something similar. So it's kind of like, maybe solution oriented may not be the best, language, but it's kind of getting towards that. So I guess the cultural shift was really to focus more on being that, like less from being that administrator, to say like, no, you can't do that. Yes, you can, to be more, okay, that doesn't really work, but how can we make it work?
Okay.
Right. So almost a little bit of a, typically we, as a planner, we'd say, well, that's economic development's job, right? They do it, but it's more being a little more proactive and responding to the, the development community to find solutions.
and I'll add to that, Councillor Boudreau. It's probably one of the main conversations that I have on a regular basis with the planning director. I love the work that they do, but I hate getting a call when I ask, well, what other solutions did they provide? And it was none.
Okay.
So, and again, I understand certain obligations they might have for their associations and social responsibilities they may have. The services that we pay and every conversation that I have with the planning director is, I just want solutions provided. Right. How do we find solutions or present solutions to the developer? If X isn't possible, is Y and Z possible, or how can he modify? So I think that's one of the ongoing conversations that I continue to have with Plan 360.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Councillor Joël Després.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Je peux parler en français?
Comprendra pas, lui.
Okay.
No, can understand in French. Okay.
For the report, really clear. Nice to see numbers. My only concern is, actually it's not a concern, is I think it's really important that going forward, I think having a working session with Plan 360 for our concerned citizens where we want to go for different rules, I guess. I think would be really...
So they can get information, a better understanding, at least. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the next council to have to do that.
And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm looking at Phil, with the review, there's going to be a component where council can provide feedback and also where residents can provide feedback on the formulation of the next municipal plan. So I think it's a great opportunity to have those dialogues or concerns so they can be integrated in the plan and they can be brought to the forefront when we're doing that revision.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you much, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council, for the opportunity to do this. It was a fun piece of work that we don't typically get to
do the fun stuff.
No. For this project particularly, you often think, well, is Plan 360 going to get their backs up and be uncooperative, because it is a bit of a deep dive when you're looking at performance, and they didn't. Sebastian, Phil, Jeff, they're top notch throughout the whole process. So hats off to them. And I think putting a little bit of daylight on how much it costs is a good thing.
Yeah, and then the net cost is essentially not much.
That's right.
Sense. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Santiago? Okay, yeah. sounds good. Notre prochaine présentation.
Our next presentation is online, and we have and the presenter is not online yet. So what we'll do, we'll continue, and we'll get back also, like with the Mr. Clerk also will tell me. He will give me just a little slap on my shoulder or something. Number 7, like correspondence, we didn't have any, but we had a report from the fire department. Essentially, it's the same report and that we're used to. If you have any questions on this one, we can also forward them also to the fire chief, and you could come back to us at a later date. We're hoping like they're not on the call, like there's always a training on the. So now, we're Tuesday, we're not Monday, we're saying Monday. So there's some training on Tuesday night too. So CEO report, Mr. Evos, it's a pleasure to give my report this evening for the last time before the election. And of course, like I'm ready to answer any question you will have after my report. But my first update, I would like, it's on the industrial park for Scoudouc. And I have the pleasure to announce that the permanent purchase and sale were signed with the municipality, and they still need to be signed by the minister. So they're on his office. So they're just waiting for his signature. And we're looking at purchasing or closing for June 30, 2026. So everything is progressing well. And I can tell you the Economic Development and Tourism worked really hard like over the last weeks. So we had to mention some properties. We had to look at agreements, some transfers too for asset transfers. So the good news for the municipality, well, we do have like the official papers were signed. Second point, I just wanted to tell you this morning there was a little water main break like on Ohio Road, not too far from the trunk line was the construction is being done, and the people didn't have water for some time, but the water main was restored, but there's still like a boil water order that was put for this area until we get the test back. It's the second like water main we have like over the last 2 weeks, and I can tell you like our staff from Public Works, they're really great work, and they're trying to solve the issues as soon as possible to limit impact on our citizens when it does happen. By continuing on water, I shared at the last meeting that we were in the billing process, and we were also like collecting for different water accounts like that were not paid. And I can tell you, and I will do like a comparison for last year. And last year we said we were managing like 110 accounts, like we were in bad debts, but this number is now down 69 as of last week. And we also had a total of 9 clients that we were looking to stop the service, to cut the water service this week, and that we would have to notify them. 7 out of those 9 concluded agreement with the municipality. So there's 2 like we might have to stop the service. So you see, like it's not only like an effort from 2 months. It's an ongoing effort, and we're trying to solve this. And we told you it would take like some time, like an extended period of time to settle those accounts. So we made some progress, and thanks to the finance team also for this one. Also, I sent you an email at the beginning of the week last week because it was a question. We had some complaints like for dogs and unsightly premises. So I shared like a table, and we said that since the beginning of the year, we got about 50 complaints. I'm correcting myself. I did not explain it properly. It was since March and April. We had 50, we got 50 complaints just for March and April. And in this table I showed you, there would be maybe 5 unsightly premises that were one in Pointe-du-Chêne, 3 in Scodoc, and 5 in Shediac, for a total of 9 unsightly premises cases, and of course many for complaints on dogs. And for unsightly premises, I can share with you that the 3 we have now in Scodoc, the number increased to 9. So we got a significant amount of complaints like over the last week, and we will act on all the cases we receive. Out of all the cases we have, like at the municipality, one of the case might be considered like dangerous. So when it's unsightly premises, it's one thing. It takes a little bit more time to clean because you give like the authorization, like you give notice to the owner that we go on the property, like to inspect it and so on and so forth. But in the case of a dangerous premises, it's the responsibility of the municipality to prove like that the site is dangerous. So we need an inspection by an engineer or a surveyor. There's a list of specific professionals like in the act, and one of these cases it's being analyzed by an inspector, and we might possibly declare like a dangerous premise. So for this reason, we mentioned there might be like a meeting like after May the 11th. It would be ultimately like to determine this component. Possibly like at this meeting, there would be a discussion to declare like a dog dangerous. So in the various cases we are managing now, like we have some cases like these are like dangerous dogs that are being circulated. So the 2 last items I would like to talk about, it might be like the end of this council here, but I think like over the last 2 years, you adopted like a strategic plan, and I think it's worthwhile to take the time and to see all like the goals and the work and all like the files we're supposed to work on. You will notice there's a lot of files that we saw some really good progress on them. So when you establish goals, clear and specific and strategic, it allows the municipality to have a roadmap or a place where we can focus our efforts. And I think you will be happy like to see the work we did. A lot of progress were made, even if there's some delays. We're trying to limit them, but there's delays like in anything we do, like for so many reasons, but there's still some progress being done in those files. I want to congratulate you, 1, to adopt a plan, and 2, to look at and also like transfer the message to the citizen who asks the question. So what did you accomplish over the last 2 years? It's visible like in our strategic plan. My last point, I would like to wish the best of luck to all the candidates for the next election for next Monday. For those who will be elected, so we will have the swearing in on May 30th in this council's chamber. We're planning like a mini celebration following the swearing after for the families and citizens, like to celebrate the arrival of the new council. And also like mark your calendars, like there will be a provincial orientation session that is organized by the Department of Local Government. It will be held on June 12th and 13th in Fredericton. So the new council will participate to this training. And once again, like a thank you, and I'm ready to answer any of your questions, and good luck to the candidates. Councillor Peterborough, any questions on our CEO's report? It's not a question, it's more like a congratulation, like to the finance team, like we're finally like put their hands like on the water collection invoices. Like we've been talking about this for years, and this file is not easy like to deal with. And I would like to congratulate you. At least like you took the bull by the horns, and I would like to congratulate the team, like our financial team, for this. Councillor Patricia Bourque-Chevary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will not repeat like what Councillor Brault said. It was on my list of congratulations, and it's not something that's pleasant to do, like account collection. But the second one was a question, if I understood properly. Did you say there were 9 like unsightly premises in Scodo, or you had like 9 complaints for the 3 we had? We have 9 different properties in the Scodoc region. And it's 6 more than what I presented last week. So that's what I was wondering. So I was wondering if it would complain on the same files. We got many like complaints on the same one. We still process them as one file, but you have 9 files open for. And I shared last Monday, like we had 50 calls. We had way more calls last week for new files that we populated like those new areas. Thank you very much. So, next item, recommendations from the Southeast Regional Service Commission. First, we have like the Domaine Parly, Mr. Jeff Boudreau. So how are you? He will present at you like what's on our plate. So yes, I don't have a presentation for you, but the report was provided to you. So this is just an extension of the mini home park, and it was done a long time ago. Initially, there was a condition that limited the length of the cul-de-sac, the number of units. I wasn't sure how. I don't remember how it was established because there was only one entrance like to the development. So that condition was met, and since like in the planification of Beaubridge Street, there was a second request. It was in 2017, like to have one extension of the development to allow the cul-de-sac up to 900 something meters. So it was all accepted and registered. And today, like we are with the Beaubridge that is under construction up to Ohio Road, and the construction contract includes the connection to the development like to Bonaventure Street, which means like now the cul-de-sac was reduced from a significant amount, and this would allow like a new extension of that development. In the initial resolution from 2017, there were like a request, an application that all like a future extension would come to the council for this reason. So that's why the application is in front of you this evening. But there were also some changes in the street names that were accepted at the time, like for one reason or another. Either they were not verified, they were not registered, like for one reason or another. Like there's other streets in the region with the same names. So the proposed names initially, they were not acceptable anymore. So the new names were submitted and they're part of the resolution. So the names that are part of the plan today, they are reserved, I should say, with public safety. So in the future, we will not have to reduce it. So it will avoid other people to have new development with the same names we are proposing today. So I'm here like to answer any questions. So before we go to questions, since it's a motion, I would need someone to read it. Mrs. Deputy Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Domaine Parly, whereas Perfection Realty Inc. has approached sorry. So when there's a little change, like it flicks that she has whereas Perfection Realty has approached the town of Shediac to proceed with a new phase of the Domaine Parly Estate subdivision development, be it resolved that the municipal council accept the recommendation of Plan 360 to enhance location of the public streets, Villebon, Racing Hall, it replaces Alouette Street, La Tour, extension, Bonaventure extension, and 2 future streets turnarounds as shown as the Domaine Parley Estate Subdivision Unit 1 Phase Set Plan. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. Moved by the Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette-Boudreau, seconded by Councilor Joël Després. Questions on the motion? Yes, Jeff, like, does it impact like the cycling trail? You have to ask the question. I know, like, you know, like, so the public utility lot, it was part for the bicycling trail, but all like the public utility land that was dedicated in the first house. So there's no additional public utility land to contribute to the project. It's existing, so it's all within like the zone that was already like for the residential development. In other words, he gave all of it upfront. Councilor Janice Cormier, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So lately, like, I went to that section of the town, and I noticed like everything, the wood was removed. So like the parks like this one, like, do they need like to have green spaces, or because they remove all the wood, like so because this section is the section where the work will be done for the trunk line. No, the section is the section at the behind. No, it's not where the trunk line is. It's behind. So it would be where some street would be built in the planning rules. There's no restriction on wood cutting. It's his own land, so it can prepare the site and cut the trees if he wants to. So that's what he did. And another question, I'm just curious, like when we went to this part of the town, like there are some houses that are they're parallel like to the street or perpendicular, but those who are not parallel, like they have space to build a garage, but the other is, I don't think they have enough room to build a garage or things like that.
It's an interesting question. In a mini home park, it's not individually subdivided lots. It's one big PID, one continuous PID that is owned by Perfection Realty. And the houses, the mini homes placed there are their leases. So if they want to put in an accessory building, we just have to make sure that it meets the requirements around separation, setbacks between buildings. But there's no conditions except for the overall rules for maximum area of a garage or what have you. There's no rear property line per se. The two properties are one. There are several mini homes. It's more of a side property line. The only property lines are the exterior ones for the whole property and the public streets. In many home parks, the owns are also owned by the developer and their private roads, if you like. But here, they're public streets with some public services. Well, I found it was nice that you could have garages. Thank you. So, with that, you seem to have another question, Councillor Cormier. No? I was looking at you. Oh, great. So with that, all those in favor shall say aye. All those against shall say nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 10.2 Ohio Road Subdivision. Mr. Boudreau. It's that the development next to Bombardier. We finally received a subdivision request. If you look at the subdivision plan attached to the report, here are a few items. That's the lot beyond Union Drive. In back, they're all zoned residential. They're still zoned residential, but the lot between Ohio and Union Drive is general commercial currently. So this is all proposed for commercial development. The intention is to develop all of it as for commercial activity, and that will be done through a rezoning application, a future one, or perhaps as of the revision of the municipal plan. We'll see where it goes. The alignment of the Generation Boulevard, it's a bit strange, or not straight lines, and this is to accommodate the roundabout that is being proposed for Ohio Road. The other interesting element in this project, the municipal border, is found behind the property. Typically, at the end of the streets, that's where we would propose step turnarounds. But in this case, the turnaround would be found in another municipality. So we removed the turnaround around Bombardier, and the turnaround is within Shediac at the end of Generation Street. There is certainly a project, it's no secret, that includes residential development within Kapakadi, and there are agreements being signed and everything happening, some other things happening. This is to secure the street layout. And that last point, the subdivision here, seeing as its commercial development, it is just to establish the street alignment and the layout, if you will, of the final lots has not yet been established. This means that there will be a future subdivision to divide the parcels, the lots within, and it will be at that point that the question of lands for public use or cash in lieu will be covered. As for now, it's just identified as land for future development. There's no obligation to treat the lands for public use, the LPP, for the moment. That thus ends my presentation. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. I would need a motion. Councillor Miller-Brien, would you like to read it? Would you like to second it? Madam Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Ohio Road Subdivision. Be it resolved that the Municipal Council accept Plan 360's recommendation regarding the location of Bombardier Street, Union Drive, and Generation Boulevard as shown on the Ohio Road Subdivision Plan, provided that a subdivision agreement is signed between the developer and the town of Shediac. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. She was the quickest. Any questions, Councillor Janice Cormier? Thank you, Your Worship. I find it's ridiculous to be asking this. No, it's fine. So Boulevard and Promenade, Drive and Boulevard, what's the difference between the two? In Shediac, I'm more used to streets. How do you distinguish between a boulevard and a drive in Shediac? That's an excellent question. Is there logic to this? That's a great question. Right now, there's no standard that has been established in terms of nomenclature for streets in Shediac. That's what the developer proposed. I think that boulevard usually indicates that it's a busier street, and given that it's on the traffic circle, it is the main entrance and the main entry for the entire residential development behind as well. But once again, that's what he's proposed. It was brought to the attention of Public Works. There was no objections per se. If the council so wishes, you could modify it and require that it be called Horizon Street. But there's no applicable rule per se. The reason I'm asking this, I wonder, it's not so great a thing, but what face are we giving to our town? I just find it different. Are there criteria? I was just wondering. You can ask as many questions as you like. It's included in the cost. And it is expensive. Right. I don't know if the other council members are thinking the same thing, but I just find it for the name of a street. Well, correct me if I'm really off base here. There's nothing built. The street's not built. If later the municipal council is entitled to name streets, the developer suggests these things. Basically, if the municipal council, after having named the street today, well, in a provisional way, let's say, could give another name if they so wish. Absolutely. Yeah, unless it exists already. Absolutely. There can be some consequences in terms of modifying a street name, in terms of something that's existing where residents have addresses and passports, credit cards, things like that. Then you're going to ask to make a modification. That can have an impact. But yeah, you're right. The final ultimate decision is yours. You'll often see municipalities that will honor a great figure of the town and name a street after them. It can be done. I know that Pleasant Street was called Balbo Street a long time ago. Many generations ago. Any other questions? Councillor Paul Boudreau. Yes, question for Public Works. Yes, to you. Yes. What is your question? With this new step, I'm pleased to hear it. Does it change the timetable, Fred, around the roundabout on Ohio? Mr. Director, no, it doesn't change the timetable. The Ohio roundabout won't be happening in next month. So we're still in the preliminary steps for that. The design is advancing very quickly. It doesn't change the schedule for that, not the planned schedule for that. Well, there you go. Okay. That's good. Thank you. Next person, Councillor Ronald Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to support the comments of Councillor Cormier. We need to decide tonight if we're accepting boulevard and promenade or drives. We might be able to wait, but it could complicate the future council's life in 6 months if they start to do things. I'd be open to supporting, if somebody wants to make a motion, I'd be open to changing that to put street instead of drive and boulevard. We're still we're talking all the streets in town. If the council is open to it, I would support it. Councillor Cormier, I think she raised some excellent questions, and I'd be willing to support that if the council thinks it's the way to go forward. Thank you, Councillor Cormier. I might add something. In the comments that we sent to public safety, boulevard or that was identified in the comment that they reserve the name Union Boulevard, but I also said that this had not been accepted by council, that there could be changes if it was the council's desire. If it is the council's desire, I can easily send a revision to them that will reflect your desired name. Nobody will stay on that bit of road, not for quite a while. So there's still some time before it were to be a problem for residents. Councillor Janice Cormier, thank you, Your Worship. I think it's discussion to be had for the next council. I don't like to vote too quickly on this. I'd like to have more time to think of it. In terms of boulevard, that's fine with me. But I think it's something that the council should consider in terms of the town and where we want to go. What do we think that the town should do in terms of these types of streets? I am ready to accept that, except for perhaps removing boulevard and drive for now, and afterwards we can see what the council. Are you listening to me? Yes, but I have to listen to my CAO as he's talking to me too. My clerk was talking to me as well. So I don't know how we should do it. I don't know if we should. I don't want to slow things down. As the clerk would just whisper in my ear, this is accepted provisionally. The dirt road is not yet built yet, but it's not quite built properly yet. I'd like to have staff take note of it, that perhaps we could have a recommendation or some work done on this with the new council to bring it forward for discussion. Mr. Boudreau, I would add the process tonight is to accept the layout of the street and the name of the street. As you said, there's a long process to get to build the street. We'll take agreements. We're far from recording this plan or registering this plan. It's only when we register the plan that the final decision must be made. In terms of the name, yes, in terms of the street name. Based on the resolution, if it's adopted as presented today, they could register the plan under Boulevard, but if in 2 or 3 months the council wishes to modify that, it's possible. And the final plan that will be registered will reflect the desire of council at the time. If you want to reconsider this for the same cost. For the same cost, yes. Thank you. Mr. Leger, ultimately, I think that the last thing the developer would want to have happen is that the decision be slowed down. I think that he'd be fully open to hearing the recommendations to have the project go forward around the nomenclature of the streets. Councilor Germain Goumit, I just want to say, we changed the street. It's his street. Inaudible. It's we don't. So for Boulevard, so he should do it. And something else. The town can even develop a process for a bank of names, for example. So a while ago, I found that there was a study that had been made, oddly enough, by one of the uncles of our CAO, Father Maurice Leger, that suggested several names, and the council adopted it at the time. So that's okay. I had scanned it. It was in 1980, a while ago. So it was just a list for inspiration, and the council adopted many of them, not all, but that is something. Something that next council might think about. Councilor Paul Boudreau, the neighboring town had done exactly that through the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. They developed a database of street names in Dieppe. It worked out really well. It's exactly what Père Maurice did in Shediac, Châteauroux Street, the streets that we know now. That comes out of that document that referring to, Your Worship, Chambly. It's a really good document. If it's boulevard or square or what. In terms of the not the name of the street, but the type of street, maybe boulevard, well, maybe like that more or less. Something that can be part of the municipal plan in terms of nomenclature for street types, not solely the street names. We can look into that. Nomenclature is the name. Nomenclature. It's from chemistry. So, with that, all those in favor shall say aye. Those who are against shall say no. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Boudreau. We're ready? Great. So let's come back to the tourism strategy. There is our consultant is online. Good evening. Good evening, Your Worship. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me tonight on the agenda. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, even if I can't be there in person. So I think that Sylvain will be the one who will be putting up the presentation on the screen. Do you all see the presentation? Yes. Great. So I'm going to present it in English, but as you can see, if you have questions in French, it would be my great pleasure to answer. But the presentation is in English, so the flow will be better in English. Great.
So we started the project way back when, and so really the mandate was to develop a comprehensive strategy plan both for Experience Shediac, of course, but for the local tourism industry as well, because this has to be an industry plan. It's not just for Experience Shediac because they can't do it alone. So really the industry has to be behind the growth of the visitor economy in Shediac. So next slide, please, Suzanne. So we've gone through quite a few steps to get where the final plan, and I think everybody got the actual larger document that has all the bells and whistles in it. But really, we started off through just looking at what was going on, doing some initial ground research, looking at some statistics, what the perception was of the visitors that were coming in. We looked at about, 12 or 13 studies that have been done in the past while. We had just finished the tourism strategic plan for the regional commission as well. So that kind of gave us a lot of intelligence as well. So we came into this with a great deal of knowledge, which was great. So it saved us quite a bit of time. We also did the research on really who our client is and figured out, okay, well, we don't have that much issues in the summer. We're full. Really, we need to start looking at how do we grow the season and be more than just a summer destination. So we started looking at some of those markets. We also engaged with the industry. So we did about 10 one-on-one interviews, longer interviews with a few of the key players in the region and in town. And as well, we did two-person, in-person visiting sessions in Shediac. So overall, we spoke to a bit more than 40 people at those sessions, 2 sessions, morning and afternoon. And all of that brought back together strategic priorities, which were approved by Experience Shediac. And then we moved forward to build some strategies around those priorities, actions, KPIs. And that's the document that was produced that you, I believe, all have already received. So let's go to the next slide. So one of the key things is we really wanted to identify what are those anchor anchor products or experiences that we can really build off. And I must say, you've got quite a few, which is great because a lot of destinations would kill to have some of these really well-known products and experiences. So we really identified these 4 as sort of the major key pillars and the real destination footprint. So obviously Parley Beach Provincial Park, Omaris Center, which I loved, fantastic. I've been there twice now. I think it's the coolest thing. The Giant Lobster, which is a great fun thing, and Pointe-Chene Wharf, of course, which is a great sort of entertainment and natural venue. So those were really the key tourism footprints and key assets that the region has. There are many others, and that's okay. They can tie into some of this, but really these are the ones that that you are recognized for. So next slide, please. So when we reached out to all these stakeholders, we wanted to get their feedback. So we asked a bunch of different questions at the sessions and in our individual sessions as well. So I've kind of split them up, and I won't go into great detail, but just kind of look at the sort of the highlights. So as far as the structure and governance of Experience Shediac itself, everybody was saying, like, we need somebody to sort of be the tip of the spear and lead us into sort of a tourism 2.0. And we need to have somebody who's going to take charge and who's going to kind of lead us that way. So that was one of the things that came out, and obviously Experience Shediac could really play that role. There was big comments on, we need to improve the communication, what's going on with Experience Shediac towards the industry and back and forth. We're kind of, we figured there was a little bit of silos that was happening, so we kind of need to break those down and have a lot of cross communications. They wanted a clear vision on tourism. So what's our visitor economy? What are we going to do? So I think this plan will set the tone on that. And obviously this plan is a strategic plan. So we're seeing it at a 50,000 foot level. And this will help obviously look at a longer term vision, but it also will help implement the yearly business plan where we're going to get a lot more into the weeds, or where the Experience Shediac will get more into the weeds. We wanted to make sure that there was a more collaborative role within everybody that's in the industry there. And we talk about the tourism industry, but the tourism industry sort of overlaps in so many other industries. And I always say the tourism industry is an industry of industries. So we've got restaurants, hotels, entertainment, taxi, florists, permitting, all these kind of things. So we really need to get a lot more collaboration amongst those people. And of course, your new accommodations levy, people said, this is fantastic. We've got this cash coming in. But really, we need to put that where we're going to get our highest ROI. So what are those markets that are really going to drive tourism when we need it, and maybe go into some of those markets that we're not in, but we know have high yield potential. So, budget-wise, we need to sort of put the money where it's going to pay off the most. So that was on the structure and governance. And I think, since all this has been taking part in the last 6-7 months, I think already Experience Shediac has already started putting a lot of stuff into fruition. So, even though the plan is not approved by you, I think they've already started taking a lot of those best practices and putting them into fruition already. So when we were talking about brand, again, a lot of places in the world would love to have like an easy, neat, recognizable brand, and you've already got one as a Lobster Capital. So we're saying like it's a fun theme to have, but let's double down on it. And really, you're the only ones who can really claim this because you've had it for such a while. It'd be hard for anybody else to come in now and say, okay, we are the Lobster Capital. So how do you bring that down really into the brand storytelling in all your marketing initiatives? How do you get your partners so that the rest of the industry to put it in as far as their branding as well, so that if they're going out doing advertising, they're putting in the sort of the Lobster Capital branding as well. So obviously there's a bit of a strategy that has to go around on the brand strategy side, but I think, having that brand already kind of in market, let's really take it to the next level and look at, can we introduce a lobster tourism culinary accreditation program and put that as part of our promotion? Do we put it on all our wayfinding that could be part of what's going on in Shediac? So there's a lot of many ways. And one of the things that inspired us is when we were walking through town, we saw the bike racks with the lobster cut out in it. I thought that was wonderful. And like how great would it be to take it into all bunch of different other things that are being done around town. So next page, please. And if I'm talking too quickly, please stop me. I know I have 15 minutes, so I want to make sure there's enough time for questions. So I might be kind of blowing through this, but stop me if you have any questions along the way. So on the marketing and promotion, there was a lot of talk around that. Everybody's kind of doing their own little thing, and they're trying to, talk to different markets. And so we came back from the stakeholder session saying, people are doing too much of their own little thing. How can we sort of start gathering people? How can we create a program 1 year out so that they know what we're going to be doing in marketing and promotion for the next year? How can we get them to buy into that? Really look at, some of those high target value clients that we want to now go after. So again, it's really having the industry come in, create product for us to be able to package and market and get out there. So super important. And we can't do this alone, even regionally. So obviously, we have to play with our friends down the road, which are Destination Moncton Dieppe and Destination Southeast, because I always say, a tourist doesn't care where the city limit stops. They want to see the region, or, they're not preoccupied where one starts and the other doesn't. So I think we need to take a very broad approach, and it's more or less what is in the same strategy at the Southeast region, is to really work together. And I think that's the only way that we'll be able to really grow the number of nights that people are staying and increase the spend. Because we've got limited accommodations within Shediac. Moncton Dieppe have the accommodations, but you guys have the products. Same with Bay of Fundy. They don't have the hotels, but they have the products. So can we get people to stay more in the region and maybe would do 1 day in each, or stay in Shediac and then, do 2 days in Shediac and then go see something else down the road. But we need to play together. And I think there's a willingness among stakeholders to do that. On the product and experiences, as I said earlier, your summer season is not an issue. I think the summer issue strategy now is really, and this has come back from stakeholders as well, is to look at, can we get a higher yield client? So can we bring in, instead of a local, Atlantic Canada client, can we maybe bring in somebody from across Canada, the US, or even international? We're going to stay longer and spend more. So that's more of a strategy to switch out clientele there. But the other strategy is how do we fill the spring and the fall so that we stay away, so that we change the perception that we're only a summer destination. So, you know, some of the product is showing its age. So there's a question of, you know, how do we help move that along? Because even the stakeholders are saying that our product's getting a little tired. But it's there and it can be improved fairly easily with some investment, obviously. They also talked about, you know, let's try to create a hallmark moment because, you know, downtown Shediac's got that beautiful little park down there. So how do we create that ambiance outside of the regular season? You know, how do we push the fall, push the Christmas market, maybe more of a European style? We've all seen those Hallmark movies, but they're, you know, they're a little hokey, but they create that atmosphere. And I think that's a possibility that could be done in Shediac. It's just the right size to be able to do that and get everybody in the city involved. Improving the wayfinding, that was you know, something that came back, and we're seeing that throughout the Southeast region. So we're saying maybe that's part of a bigger initiative because we suggested it at the Southeast Regional Commission as well, that's something they really need to look into across the entire region. Most people said, like, we got to double down also on our Acadia culture. You know, Acadians are here. We have such beautiful stories to tell, but we're not telling them enough. And that's really a differentiator that not many destinations claim. So how do we bring that into the storytelling as well? And of course, you know, sports tourism, outdoor adventure with the beaches and the water and all of that wellness, you know, that used to be a trend and now it's an actual segmentation within the tourism world. You know, you've got a lot of those elements. So how do we bring all that together? So that's kind of the feedback that came back from the stakeholders. Our own analysis based on being out there as well and with some of that feedback is, you know, as I said, the hotel inventory is limited. It's more on the economical side. We feel very strongly, especially if you want to go for a higher yield type of clientele, we're going to need some of those hotels to upgrade. And I know it's a big ask, but it's definitely something that, you know, if you want to keep up with the competition, it's something that has to be done. And maybe we need to look at a new hotel, you know, higher end hotel or small higher end inns that could be brought online as well over time. If we can convince, or if we can bring enough tourism beyond just the summer season, it starts convincing hoteliers to start looking at the destination as a possible investment. And again, it's that seasonal limitation, right? We need to start convincing people to stay open longer. And I know it's kind of like a chicken and the egg. If, you know, if they're not here, why should we stay open? But I think at one point, somebody's going to have to take a leap of faith and say, okay, you know, we need to stay open, and we'll work with Experience Shediac, and we'll work with our other partners to try to develop stuff that will bring people in. And it could be just New Brunswickers coming in from other parts of New Brunswick as well. Especially in that off season. You know, winter's winter in Canada. So, you know, January through March, unless you're living in Victoria, BC, sucks in Canada. It's just cold and it's not pretty, you know. So we have to kind of work around that. So there's plenty of different things that we could look at. So also in the product experience, as I said, it's limited to more summer options. How can we grow that? We need to have a common alignment. So really getting everybody behind this plan in the industry. So there's a whole communication piece that has to go out on behalf of Experience Shediac to do that as well. So there's some heavy lifting there to do, especially in the first months and the first year of this plan. And we've already got sports and event hosting coming. How can we sort of leverage that maybe a little bit more and be a bit more strategic about it? Not wait for it to come, but go and get it. But go and get it in times that we really need it. Because a lot of time what we see is that same tournaments want the same weekend. So we're piling up one weekend when the weekend before or the weekend after is not full. So can we work with some of these sports tournaments to say, hey, you know, we can't take you the weekend of the 5th, but if you come the weekend of the 15th, you know, you get a hell of a deal because, you know, we got lots of room. So again, spreading that occupancy throughout the year. Reputation and perception. You know, I talk to literally people from across Canada, and I always talk about my different destinations that I'm working with. And, you know, Shediac, everybody says, oh, yeah, it's a great place to go in the summer. And even New Brunswickers are saying that. You know, one of the funny things, I was in Moncton last year, and I said, well, what do you go? Do you go to Shediac in the winter? And they said, oh, that's too far in the winter. I said, but you're going there, like, you're living there in the summer, and you're driving back to Moncton to work. So why wouldn't you do that in the winter? Like, why wouldn't you go for dinner or, spend an evening? So it was a bit funny, but it's a perception thing that we need, I think, to work on as well. And access, wayfinding. There's no public transportation to and from the airport, or to and from downtown, or even up the Acadia coast. So it's really, people have to rent cars. So, if we're starting to look at different markets, maybe that's something to be considered as well. And again, that's going to be a regional play, but I think obviously the city will have their say in that. So next page, please. So that's kind of the information that drove us to what we're going to present now. So we're seeing the target growth opportunities beyond the summer months and even within the summer months, but again, changing that clientele maybe. So it's really, Atlantic Canada, Quebec and Ontario, sort of that empty nester, those who were like keen on cultural and culinary. So they want to discover the indigenous history of the region, the Acadian history. So that's an easy peasy, and they will tend to come off season anyway. They don't want to be in the crowd, so it's a great thing to go after. U.S. drive market, despite what's going on politically and, all the fights and tariffs and all that, the Americans are still coming to Canada. And eventually they will come back en masse like they did in the past. So, and it's a drive market, right? So that whole East Coast and, Americans get a little skittish when stuff starts going and bombs start flying in Europe. So they turn to Canada because it's a safe haven, right? There's cool stuff. There's different stuff to see. So it's still a major market, I think, for Shediac to look at. Travel trade, those are the bus tours that are coming from the US and internationally. We're seeing a growth in that. We're seeing the Europeans that are not going to the US considering Canada, and some of that is travel trade. We're seeing the Japanese market, the Chinese market, and the receptive agencies. So the people who run these bus tours are looking for different experiences. They've been doing the same experiences for so long in Canada. They need something different. So again, Shediac's got lots to offer there. They're already coming. We found out just through the sessions that a few of the experiences in town were already getting buses, like 10 or 12 of them. So you got 50 people per bus. That's a lot of people coming through. So how do we keep them in market a little longer? Like, can they stop and have lunch with us? Can they stay maybe overnight, or can they stay all day, do some shopping, drop some more money? That's what we want, instead of just coming in, doing one thing and taking off. So how do we work with that and get them to stay longer? Sports tourism, as I said, let's be a bit more strategic about it. Interprovincial and regional tournaments are really where you're going to be. Unfortunately, you don't have the infrastructure yet to go after those bigger national and international type things. But, there's enough interprovincial and regional tournaments to keep you guys really busy if we're doing it right. And a lot of it is off-season business, which is fantastic. So helps keep those hotels open, the restaurants open, the bars open, etc. And then festivals and events, you've already got quite a few. There's talk of bringing more. We're always about that. And of course, Atlantic Canada and Quebec drive markets are huge on that, even the Ontario market. But I think, with the Acadian play, I think the Quebec market could be even greater than what it is now. So next slide, please. So looking forward, this plan is good until 2030 and beyond. So we really wanted to say, okay, what's our goal? What's the end game? So it was really to unite Shediac's tourism community around a shared vision of collaboration. And we keep using that word because it's super important, because it's happening, but not enough. That strengthens the visitor economy and extends the vitality beyond the summer season. So again, it plays into the working together, increasing the number of people, extending that season, and getting them to spend and drop their dollars even more so in Shediac. So based on this, next slide, please. There's 4 main strategic pillars. And as you see in the document that you did receive, there's a lot of stuff that's behind, that's feeding all these, but and we wanted not to have 27 priorities, because you'll never be able to do any of them because there's just too many of them. So we said, let's start small, get these done really, really well, get you guys running at a nice pace, and then we can add as time goes on. But I think these are the 4 main things, with all the stuff that has to be done within them, that should be looked at over the next 3 years. So strengthen the experience of Shediac's position. Experience Shediac is sort of the lead tourism connector. So really, they are the ones that are going to bring everybody together, start aligning the industry, start looking at marketing further ahead, start helping create itineraries, etc. Activate that lobster capital of the world brand and really like take it to the next level. Deliver coordinated year-round marketing. So a lot of the stuff that's happening now is like we're deciding in sort of March what we're going to do in June, July. You know, we need to look at it much further out and much further less farther out, in the sense that we need to plan this year for next year, so that people can already, when they budget in the fall, they know how much money they're going to be looking at spending with Experience Shediac if they start putting their money in the same pot and growing that pot, so that we've got a bigger impact instead of, you know, somebody spending 5,000 here and 10,000 there and another 3,000 there. If we can pool some of this money, all of a sudden your $50,000 in advertising becomes 100, and then you start really getting some traction, especially in those key markets that we want to go after. And finally, is enabling that product and experience development. And I know that, you know, Experience Shediac is not going to start writing big checks for people to build hotels, but I think they can make the case and they make the tourism economy and the tourism environment good enough that we can start saying, okay, hey guys, you know, we've done the analysis. We need another hotel, or we need another experience. What we don't need is another lobster shack. But, you know, if you're going to do something that's quite unique, electric bikes, et cetera, yeah, then we can sort of, you know, help plug you in with the different people that might be able to help you out. So again, that's part of being the sort of the tip of the spear. So that's the strategic priorities, and I know you probably fell asleep while reading the bigger document, but there's a lot more information that supports these 4 strategic priorities in the document. So next page, I think, is the question page. So happy to answer any questions. Anglais, français, il n'y a pas de problème.
Well,
French or no problem.
I just want to say thank you, John, for that presentation. You outlined well what Shediac's tourism culture, you know, vision can look like, you know, in that sense. And, you know, of course, lobster's at the heart of it. Anyway, obviously. We have a few questions. Councillor Jeunesse Cormier.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Maire. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I just love your enthusiasm. I'm happy to live in Shediac after seeing this presentation. So the only thing, like we're talking about the Shediac experience to go off season, I didn't say anything like when we're talking about diversity of restaurants or shopping or. So we have things, but a lot of the same thing are things that are simple, like so we have a lot of things like we have to go outside Shediac, like to purchase. So we did prepare like of a Shediac experience, like a diversity of restaurants, stores, shops. So we have a downtown, but it's not a downtown where you see like to do a whole lot of shopping. Especially like when we're looking at for people like outside of the province or Canada or Americans, like they want to spend money. That's what they're here for. Like, but it's about the chicken and the egg. If there's not enough people in town, people will not open a new restaurant or a new shop. But I think you still have a good basis. Each time I went to Shediac, I never had like a bad meal, but I think there's some interesting things there. So maybe like this individual will say like it's time to open a second restaurant or a boutique like that's combined with the restaurant. Like it's to convince like people to invest in our town. I don't know if I did answer your question, but it will come over time. Thank you. Because everybody likes to make money always. Councillor Peterborough, thank you.
Your strategic priorities on number 2, evolve and activate the Lobster Capital of the World brand. This is probably the most important strategic priorities that has to be done, because in order to have a brand, I mean, companies are dying to get brands on anything, or towns. And here we are in Shediac, and we have the lobster capital of the world with our huge lobster. The branding is incredible. I think it's very important that the whole the whole marketing toward the brand happens really with the lobster capital of the world, and not only with the tourists. I think it goes further up as far as even with the new development and so on. I mean, we're talking before about having a special niche in Shediac and making sure we keep it at a certain way that people not only think about Shediac, but as having the lobster capital of the world as a brand should be the top priority of any strategic priorities that you go on, so that people really understand that this is where things happen. Because it's good to say, people saying, we're going to Shediac, it's a lot of fun. It's good for people that know, but people that don't know Shediac, when they hear the word Shediac, it doesn't mean anything for them. But when they hear the lobster capital of the world, then that means something. So I think that the reflection on the brand really has to evolve to the fullest, as far as certainly on the tourist side. And I know you're not involved in development and so on, but I think for the new the town council and future development, I think the branding on the lobster capital world is a must, because we have something here that people would pay $1,000 to get, and we have it. And the thing is, nobody can steal it from us. So I commend you for that, and I hope that strategic priorities will be by far the most evolved of four. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, hit the nail right on the head, because it's, as you said, people would spend millions of dollars to have this kind of branding and recognizable branding, right? You're already there. So it's really, the base is there. It's just like, how do we take it? And I think, yes, tourists have to recognize it and your industry has to recognize it, but your citizens have to be part of the game as well, because we really want them to be part of the tourism story, so that, it could be as simple as somebody's lost downtown and somebody, a resident that has nothing to do with tourism, just looks at it and say, hey, can I help you? You should go here, you should go there. Do you know about the lobster story? Why are you here? Just being that friendly sort of citizen. So, really successful destinations have their brand and their attitude towards tourism really integrated into one. So it's like one big machine that's working together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci, Conseiller Brault. So this
was just for a point of information to update you. So that's how the direction we're taking. It's not for a vote. It's simply to update you.
Okay. Thank you much, John. Wish you well.
Merci.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And looking forward to coming back sometime soon. But thank you very much. And I just want to say, everybody at the city that was very generous with their time, with their information, and Experience Shediac, the whole crew there. You've got a good bunch of people and very enthusiastic and always thinking ahead. So best of luck with all this. And I'm around when you need me.
Sounds good. And if you're in this part of the world during the Lobster Festival week, you're always welcome to drop in.
Sounds great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Here.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
So now, next item. So we went back. So we're going to unfinished business and new business. We did not have anything. 13, a request for information from the council. So they mentioned by email, they sent their question. The first one was Councilor Patriceau Chevary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd send an email concerning the Webster Park and the gazebo. Apparently that we had built, and I was wondering what was the plan. It was a trail, I don't have any details, but maybe our CEO I will provide the details I have, and if the director would like to add something, or she will be able to do so. Essentially, we identify a couple of years ago, a park we wanted to see some improvement, and the park, Webster Park was one of them, and there will be some kind of a trail and also embellishment that are not there right now. And I would say the majority of the work is done internally, and it's teamwork that is being done by the staff of the Department of Recreation. And I would say even there's some kind of pride also from this employee to ensure to deliver a product a product of quality for our citizens. There is some kind of a plan that was prepared, and I don't know if our director would be able to send like the plan. I know a few councillors saw the plan because they asked for it, but we could certainly send a copy of the plan for. If I'm not mistaken, did we present it like a couple of months ago? So we will send you a copy of the plan, so you are able to see like the type of work we're doing, and also for the gazebo. So there were many comments that were done that we should look maybe to improve, like some areas with more like a shade, like maybe build a couple of gazebos. So we made some orders, and they will be installed this year. So I think so they will be located on the few locations. It was more like there one like at the John Lyon Park, like isn't there one at the John Lyon Park already? I think there is one there. Since last fall, yes, we only installed John Lyon. So we did not do embellishment around there. It was just installed like before the winter. So the embellishment will come, and the planification is already done. And we have a plan for this one. And also to get back, and also like to put the right person, identify like the right team. It's the public work team, like we're doing the work at the Webster Park as Mr. CEO, like they're proud of their work and they just love to do this work. And the survey was done by a specialist, so it is part of their expertise, like in this work. So they're taking care of it. And just maybe to mention, to touch on the tourism development and the tourism strategy, we're talking about the bike rack, like with lobsters. And so it's, with this type of vision, we would like to embellish our common spaces, and our superintendent, like the recreation installation, work on a concept of garbage can. And soon we are doing like the locate, like to install like all the posts like in different locations on the trails, parks, in our outside public spaces, and you will be very, very pleased because it's still it's part of the branding of the town. Thank you. So we'll send the plan, so that's okay. You will have some lawn, like, because they're saying we do not have enough green spaces. We will have some furniture also that will be added to the Webster Park. Other picnic table, other benches, and also the gazebo. More embellishments, like with landscaping. Thank you. And you had another question. So my other question was. Because I meet a lot of people like these days, and I will ask it to, and a lot of people like they mentioned like the town financially is not in a good position. I just wanted like maybe a little summary if people are listen to our meetings, and you might be reassured. I do not want like a detailed analysis of all the numbers and the revenues and expenses. I just want like maybe our last few years, how it went, like just to a debt ratio, and just I could give like a report, like a global report. And so the provincial regulations, when we adopt the budget, like say that we cannot present a budget with a deficit. Our budget has to be balanced. So this trend, well, is still ongoing. And I can say also like the challenges we have is the growth challenges. So we might have been sometimes conservative in the estimates of our revenues of building permits. And over the last few years, like we had a surplus of those amounts, and that allows the municipality to reinvest it elsewhere. In terms of expenditures, well, maybe we're not always able to start all the projects because of the of our capacity. and adjustment to the market. As you saw in the previous year, like with the tariff, some projects might have been put on hold. And I would say, like for like the finance of the municipality, we went like above of what was done like in the previous years, like over the budget discussion, where we provided you with the tools to take the right decision. Tools such as like asset management plan that will give the numbers and how we will maintain like our current installation. And we also provide like a 5-year plan that gives you an idea of where we're going, like in term over the next couple of years. Even if you adopted like a 5-year plan, our plans have many lines and they have over 25 to 30 years of planification and forecast for all infrastructure projects. And if I add, we also talk about the debt ratio and also the investments that would be required, because we have a municipality like we experience growth, we might have to offer more services, more infrastructures that we have to develop, but we also have to renew like our existing infrastructure. So we share with you like, yes, the debt ratio was increasing, but I would say like the discussion we started to have with the province is how you will reduce like the debt, but the discussion we started to have with them is how we will manage our debt, how we will ensure like to maintain the services we can deliver to our citizens. And also do like the renewal of the existing structures. So the debt ratio will it increase like over this period of time, because we have to some catching up to do, but absolutely, but we presented a plan that is sustainable. And I can tell you like our debt ratio, it might be growing, but it's well indicated in the investment like we are recommending for you to do over the next couple of years. So with the arrival of a new council, we will not change everything. We will present like the same information that we presented during the budget process. And if the council or the new council chooses to go in a different direction, well, they will have this possibility to do so. But we'll do our analysis to see like this impact on those changes. So the roadmap we are using now, well, it is really well detailed and well calculated, and so we are able to see like the growth of the new infrastructure and also to ensure like the renewal of our existing infrastructure. It answered my question. I was reassured, but it will reassure also even more. And I appreciate all the details. Thank you. Next one, Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions. Well, the first one would be, so could we have like a report for the last council meeting? We had some citizens from the Scodo ward, like they came for 2 issues, one for the dogs. So could we have like an overview where we're at, like with the complaints and we were able to solve anything? Well, I would be able to share, as I said, like we'll not get into specific details, but in some cases, but I can tell you like for as for the complaints on dog, we had interventions from our bylaw officer, and we were able to catch like a certain amount of dogs that were brought like to the kennel, to the kennel in Moncton, and we have a contract like with Moncton. So in a case like this, like a dog owner can get his animals like when he pays like the fines and all those things. So we have some some cases of dogs, like we have to act this way. As for unsightly premises, well, we had shared with you, like there were three specific cases we were dealing with, and it increased to 9. And one of those 3 cases, like the inspection was done, and so this property, like, is probably the one that is more serious out of the 9. It might be possibly considered dangerous. And we have two new properties, like we have inspections that will be done on May 8th, so this week. And the others are new complaints we got last week. Usually, like, there's a delay, like, of 14 days, like, before we can notify the owner, saying we'll give the notice to have access to the property to proceed with an inspection. And those dates, I do not have them confirmed yet. So the 3 we had before, we started the process. Thank you very much. So what's important, like the complaints were received by the town, and what's important, like the town is reacting. And I think that's all, like the citizens from the Squiduk region want. They want the town to look at it, like into this, because it's really a problem. And thank you very much to focus on this one. It's really important. And I would have a question also, like to Fred. Yeah, well, I don't know how we'll call it to Fred. Like, so sorry, Fred. I'll say Fred. Is it okay? I would like to know. Did you have the chance, like, to visit, like, the Peuplier Street? It's quite. You have anything to share with us or not to share with us? Yes, I had a chance, like, to visit the Peuplier Street, and we are currently doing an analysis of all the streets of the town of Shediac, including the Peuplier Street. Our contract, like asphalt patching, is coming up very soon, and this year we have 210 tons of asphalt available to repair streets. So the Peuplier Street that will certainly be part of this analysis where it stands, like with the town of Shediac, and we'll go from there. And I would like to remind you, like, it's the only street outside of the old Shediac that is part of the new Shediac. I think it should be a priority, like, to ensure, like, we are doing things properly, to show, like, the citizens that the old Shediac and the new Shediac, they're getting mixed together, and we will do things properly in Squiduk and in Shediac. Thank you very much.
Moi, j'ai une petite question de suivi. En termes de, lorsque quelqu'un
fait a follow-up question when somebody cites unsightly premises, is the person who reports, are they explained the process? Not so at length? I would say yes. I would say that it's one of the expectations that we want to establish among people who make those complaints. They might be preoccupied, but when it comes to unsightly premises, there are clear provisions in the law in terms of our own powers, but also the timelines that we have to follow and the methodology we have to follow. So we'd like to educate people at the same time, specifically when you receive complaints. The expectations are that it will be fixed the next week, but in reality, it's several months, not several days. We certainly want to accelerate serious files, but we do have to observe the provisions in the law. Councillor Peter Bro, you have a question?
No,
I received my answer, Your Worship. You got your answer. Also, Councillor Paul Boudreau and Councillor Emile O'Brien, who did not actually send me any questions. Me? Yes? Thank you. Patricia already asked a question, and she's absolutely right. with the elections, we're trying to find more answers to make ourselves look good. Sometimes it's not. It might be my last meeting at council. A summary of the recreation project. It's already 4 or 5 months that we've granted the last phase. What have we done? What remains to be done? There was an announcement, federal announcement for the new wave. Where are we with Mr. CAO? Madam, I'll answer the question in 2 parts. So the contract to do the feasibility study that was granted at the end of March, that is indeed underway. We had our first meeting, our first startup meeting. Wouldn't say weekly, but every 2 weeks, we have follow-up meetings with the group. Our next meeting is set out for this week. It is indeed underway in terms of the feasibility study, and the timelines will be as set out in what we presented. Secondly, in terms of federal financing, the financing may have been announced. It's not yet, it has not yet been negotiated with the province. So typically, when the federal government announces financing as such, they have discussions, they have agreements to have entered into between provincial governments and the federal government to grant those funds to various entities. It will take several months to negotiate that agreement. But I will say, we still have had discussions with the various public officials in Fredericton to share our project and the other projects that might be eligible. We shared that during the budget process that we need partners. This project will need many partners. So we've already started to have those discussions provincially, despite the fact that there's not yet a set agreement in terms of granting that financing. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. The last time, 2 weeks ago, I asked for mill and grind on Riverside Drive. I'll repeat that I don't want council members to ask for a patch here and a patch there. Has it been done, though, Fred? We're still analyzing it internally, actually. The report, we're not yet ready. We're not at the point where we can issue a recommendation. Okay? Still under Pascal Poirier House. The call for tenders was on the 30th. Can you share how many were received? I can say received 2 pieces of correspondence related to our call for tenders, one from a group that wasn't going to submit, and another that submitted a proposal. We have one submission that has been filed with the town. What remains for us is internally to analyze it to make sure that it meets all of the criteria that we established. The objective would be to present this to the new council during their first meeting in June to receive more clear direction in terms of how they want to proceed. But I can confirm that we received 2 pieces of correspondence, one being we're not submitting, and another was some documentation that we have to analyze. I was with the committee that didn't want to go forward. The call for tenders was so well done to maintain the historic character of Pascal Poirier that it remained historic character be preserved. Ultimately, I say, well, staff has not yet had the opportunity to analyze that application. Ultimately, it's a decision for the council whether or not they want to accept that application or go in another direction. In terms of Pascal Poirier House, is there a strategy to maintain the historic character? There's an amount that's been budgeted for this year in the budget process to ensure that there's maintenance of the historical tree will communicate with the artist who made that work of art to see to its maintenance during the summer period. Well, you're on a good streak, Mr. CAO. Your answer, it's great answers. Not the last one. The shows at Pascal Poirier House Park. People feel that the quality hasn't really looked great. There are smaller audiences going. What's the method in terms of recruiting artists? Who analyzes this? Who offers the grants, the contracts? But those are the comments that we've gotten. I've spoken to people recently, and we'd like to see a higher quality of show. I'm not sure what to answer. I don't have the specific answers, but I can tell you that negotiating with artists is not just a thing where, well, it's May. Would you play on June 15th? Many of those reservations and contracts are done 12, 9 months in advance. Obviously, we try to foresee what we can get, and sometimes, unfortunately, maybe we want a certain artist, they're not available. And, well, obviously, I would say to your comment, if we can see to an improvement, this is the first time that somebody's made that type of comment. We do our best with the budget that is allocated. If the programming is not up to par, share your comments. We can't act if we don't have such comments. So far, we haven't received those types of comments. I go to almost all the shows. It's very close to my house, and the audience participation is not there. I just sharing that. I know there's a committee that picks the artist. I don't know how it works. Those are comments I hear. Typically, it's internally, but if the council wants to change the formula, they can. I'm not sure if Madam Director wants to speak to it, but I know that we launch a call for tenders for artists. February, before Christmas even. It's always online, so artists can always apply. We mostly focus on it before Christmas. And just after Christmas time, there's a work group that meets in the Downtown Corporation building office as a neutral member of the staff that is not in our department or in tourism department who is there. We seek out people here and there to gather. There is a scoring grid, an assessment grid. So they need to look to the different types of music, different styles and all that. But this year, what we asked is recordings. This was new this year. We really wanted to be able to assess the artists who are submitting. It's really very popular. So we want to be even more specific in our assessments, evaluations. And so it was pretty unanimous based on the scores. The calendar is already full. Well, since the end of February. Thank you. The recreation plan comes from the recreation department. The group consultation with the public and elected officials. When will it happen? And the report. It's a very important document. Speaking of tourism just now. Obviously, it was granted in March, so it followed the same path very closely in terms as the one for the recreation center in terms of a kickoff. Have we had the kickoff? I think we had the kickoff. And I think there was some discussion about the various groups in terms of communicating and consulting, and we formulated a list and we provided that information to the group. So it's been kicked off internally, and the group is starting to do the work. So the bike trail on Ohio Road until the 15 highway. Well, if you go around the table, a lot of wood has been cut. What's the strategy to put this back in? I understand from the trunk line, I understand the work that's being done and all that. What's the strategy that you're proposing to put it back to the condition it was in? Right now, the strategy is to do the works for the trunk line. Obviously, I can tell you that we had some comments on both sides. There were comments where people liked the fact that it was a lot of woods and you could hardly see outside. We've also received comments where people feel safer actually with fewer wooded, they feel less closed in, and they feel that the trail is more inviting. So right now, if you were asking me if we have a strategy, we don't have one. We're hearing both sides. We're trying to see to the work, but obviously the land won't stay with a big hole and a pipe. It will be covered up, and there are certain standards that refer to construction. What happens after? Well, obviously, you can't just decide to put up trees. Where there's a break, we have to, where sometimes you have to cut a tree, depending on the season, and the various permissions, environmental permissions that have to come into factor in. Right, for now, the trail will be a bit wider because we have to proceed to construction, but there might be an opportunity to make it a bit more beautiful. I'm not sure if the engineers have anything to add to that. But just a few more questions. Well, Mr. Arsenault, just to complete this file, Mr. Nicolas, yes, that's a good question. Councillor Boudreau. The idea, the plan for once the trunk sewer is passed and reestablishing things similar to the municipal trail at the end of Pascal Poiré, where there's already an existing trunk sewer. So that's a section that was where we put in some grass. The trees are a bit further. That's the plan for now in terms of having that area be recovered after the trunk sewer is put in. So similar to what you see between Pascal Poiré and South Cove on the trail. I'm just asking a question. People are asking me this. Why was it there? Why didn't we put it up to a higher road? I can't answer those questions. That's the lowest point. That's why. The typography, yes. So to go up the higher road, it would have been far too deep for excavation. And are the pipes going under the trail? Next to it. Next to it. So it's not a building site, as the CAO mentioned. Just before you go, when are those? When was that? When the machinery? When do you expect the machinery to be gone? The section of the trail. Well, we anticipate it'll be done in fall in terms of construction. So the closure of the trail will be in fall, and then we'll be doing construction. So in theory, there'll be landscaping to do at the end of fall, start of winter, and into the spring. So that gives an idea in terms of when it will. It will no longer look like a work site. Also, perhaps Sylvain, the document I requested, it was 5 or 6 questions that I'm asking tonight. So for traffic projects, we would get bored if you didn't ask any questions for the meeting. Of course, no, it's still being developed. We're working closely with Fred's team. We have to recover the information to do all the web pages are already created, and all that we're doing after is orientation. Like we did, I'm repeating myself. We did the same type of thing for the Main Street project 2 years ago. We always sent the traffic to the same spot. That's what we're trying to do. So once we get the information and the pages are up in our comms, we'll start to promote a URL. People will click on it and they'll be able to find the information they need. And the neighboring town on their website is so simple. You can subscribe. Exactly the same thing will be happening here. You have to subscribe, but they'll be able to follow. No subscription, but they'll be able to follow that page. Congratulations! It was the Anchor. That's the yacht clubs actually that did that. They invited in Bouctouche, Shediac. Thank you, Your Worship. It was good. It was excellent. It was professional. Very good. It was worth it. It was all worth it. That's the last comment. Thank you very much. In terms of those 2 episodes, the town contributed as a sponsor in terms of achieving that project. Very, very good. It was the Economic Development Tourism team that did that. Jonathan? Ah, yes. No, the team, I said. Not just him. Thank you, Councillor Boudreau. Councillor Emile O'Brien. Well, maybe what's my question? Did I send you my question this morning? I thought I saw a question. Yes. Sorry. It's just a small question. I just want to clarify a point for myself. The problem that we're facing with net zero. Is that a temporary project? Is that long term with a timeline? Is there a progress report? There are town employees, I do believe. Is it temporary for them as well? I can answer that question. There were some financing for a certain time period. We have a strategy. I shared that in my last report, an outreach strategy that was created by the employee. The employee that was hired was on a contractual basis, on a one-off basis. Eventually, we're developing what we call a white paper that will hopefully orient the municipality's orientation on this file. Long term, the council will decide how it wants to proceed related to this initiative. But for now, the employee that was hired is on a contract basis to start some of the steps established based on the application that we made with our funders. And a timeline on that? Well, timeline. We'll be presenting it to the new council once they're in. We had the first draft of the white paper that I referred to just now. The objective is to present it to the new council when they'll be sworn in. Thank you. Another small question, and I'll just highlight that contract, that contractual hire was completely paid by the grant that we received. No, it doesn't cost anything to taxpayers. I met him at the. He said he's working for the town. The people who you might have met were the marketing company. They're the ones doing the outreach to educate people around the initiative. That was an initiative that was also financed by our funders. That's great. Thank you. Another small question. On Webster Park, with all these changes you're doing, all the nice things you're going to be doing there, will there be somewhere for permanent toilets? Right now, we're not foreseeing any permanent setups for toilets. We'll continue to use temporary facilities in most of our recreational infrastructure, like Webster Park. Thank you very much. It's our pleasure. It made things clear. So, next, presentation and reading of motions. Inaudible? You sent me a message. Did you hit your button? Inaudible. No, not that one. Go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. I think that it's at this point that I can speak for a moment. I'm just going to congratulate Julie. I prepared a little speech. It's a quick speech. I'll start by thanking Julie. I just wrote this just now. I didn't want to talk about garbage cans and cleanliness in town. That's not how I want to close out my time in council. But you can drop my name around garbages and cleanliness at any time in the future. I would love to hear people to say, Sylvie was saying, if somebody wants to take up that project, go ahead. Over the last 14 years, you'll notice, dear colleagues, that I find my energy in this interaction with interacting people in my community. While I was involved with various capacities, since I was at Clément Cormier, my time as a councillor in my municipality adoption is a special chapter for me. My first term came a year after we moved to Shediac. Michel and Karine, my late parents and myself. My relatives were my dates to my engagements, where I represented my municipality with great pride. This pride was accentuated as my role as deputy mayor Thank you, Mayor Casey, for having entrusted me with that opportunity. I'll repeat it because he's not listening. That pride was heightened in my role as deputy mayor. Thank you, His Worship Casey, to have entrusted me with this opportunity. A pleasure. Thank you. The various galas, festivals, and events evolved over the years, but based at the fundamental aspect of Shediac with Bonhomme Quesh and Mr. Lobster, its community pillars, volunteering leaderships and participants, that will remain. We are a town where where life is good. I have a feeling of accomplishment, having given my time to the best of my ability. The projects that we accomplished since 2012 are many, and I heartily greet my fellow councillors today and over the past few years. It was a real pleasure to debate and collaborate and to go forward with people of various levels of experience and various who always had the best of municipality at heart. I heartily congratulate staff. Thank you. The current team and the people from before. Your hard work. Sometimes people don't notice it, but you're responsible for innovating and managing and innovating projects. Thank you for your patience, and your devotion was greatly appreciated. I'm almost done. Citizens are the basis of everything, of what happens within these four walls, and I would like to thank everyone who supported me during my 3 terms. While my next role will be different, it will be a pleasure to see the evolution of Shediac over the next few years. It's with a thankful and heavy heart and a bit of a bittersweet feeling that I wanted to express my feeling of acknowledgement to close out this great experience and to wish a great term to the next council and great continuity to those who, like me, will start a new chapter of things. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor. We still have some meeting to do. I'm saving a little some words for the end. 14.1 Development Charge Framework. This is for third reading, right? Second and third reading. Okay. Well, we did during our last meeting. First of all, I don't know if would somebody like to remind us here? Mr. CAO? I'll take the lead here, and if the engineering team wants to add something, they can add something. There were some questions around looking at the possibility of expanding or looking at expanding Zone 2. As we consulted with consulted with city planners, town planners, and consultants, given that the process, the consultation process and the adoption of the bylaw required a public hearing, and that there would be a change that would be pretty considerable. It would basically change the spirit of the law or the spirit of the bylaw and that zone. So the council ultimately has 2 choices. The first choice would be to determine to put this on pause and start up again, start that process again, have a public hearing to be done by the new council. Or the second option would be to adopt the bylaw as such, but either by accepting it or seeing to modifications, amendments when the new council would be elected. Our recommendation from staff would be obviously to have the second option. There are already developments and projects for being foreseen, and these would be lost opportunities for development that we could not recover those development charges. because they're up to a certain point. That is why we would recommend that the council adopt the bylaw as it stands, and the next council could decide whether or not it wants to amend the zone or modify the zone or leave the zone as it is. If it should want to modify it, it would require a similar process to the one that we undertook. It would require a public hearing, public consultation with the new council, and they could change the layout of zone 1 or 2. So I don't know if there are any other questions or if the engineering team would want to add something. Phil gives me the thumbs up. I properly explained it. Are there any questions? We can answer them. We're ready to answer them. As we said, among our discussions the last time, Zone 1 seemed to make good sense. In terms of Zone 2, there was some discussion. We might expand it a bit more. So basically, to the idea of proceed as staff recommends to proceed with Zone 2 as such, and the next council could look to expand Zone 2, to modify it in some sense, where applicable. So, Mr. Joël Després, would you like to read it? Yes, Your Worship. 14.1 Development Charge Framework. Be it resolved that bylaw number 71, a development charge bylaw of the town of Shediac, be read a second time by its title. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. Any questions? Councillor Janice Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have any problem with option 2, but I'd like to verbally mandate the staff to bring this up before the new council. Once they've had a few meetings under their belt, it wouldn't be the first thing to cover. But I'd like to ask staff that it be on the agenda to be brought before the new council. That is noted. Thank you. Councillor Peter Breau. Yes, just now the CAO mentioned that he recommends that we accept the second reading to not lose existing projects. But if you don't do the third reading, well, we're doing the third reading tonight. The third reading tonight. Okay, pardon me. You only referred to the second. Great. Thank you, Councillor Breau. So, with that, all those in favor shall say aye. Those who are against, no. Motion carried. Mr. Clerk. Bylaw number 71, bylaw regarding development charges in the town of Shediac. Councillor Després. Maybe I should be resolved that we accept the second reading of bylaw number 71 by its title. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. All those in favor shall say aye. Those who are against, no. Motion carried. Councillor Després. Be it resolved that the bylaw entitled be read the third time by its title and in summary. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. All those in favor shall say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Mr. Clerk. Bylaw number 71, bylaw regarding development charges in the town of Shediac. Bylaw number 71 establishes the legal framework allowing the town of Shediac to impose development charges to fund municipal infrastructure required by growth in accordance with New Brunswick's Community Planning Act. The charges apply to residential, non-residential, and mixed-use projects located within designated beneficiary areas and cover, among other things, water and wastewater infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, and related lands. The applicable amounts set out in the schedules are payable to prior to issuance of a building permit and vary based on the type of dwelling, units, or floor area. The bylaw provides for credits where developers construct certain infrastructure, annual indexation of the rates, reduction mechanism in cases of redevelopment, and a comprehensive review every 5 years following public consultation. Be it resolved that we accept the third reading by its title and by way of summary. I so move. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. All those in favor shall say aye. Those against? No. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Donc, prochain, numéro 15.1, en termes d'émotion, le remplacement de l'égout pluvial, chemin Pointe-du-Chêne. Monsieur le DG, il va donner un petit peu d'arrière-plan.
Je vais juste donner un peu l'arrière-plan. Puis là, je vais
We'll just
laisser-
give you some background and then I will let like the director to talk. So something that was suggested to do, it was to look into the planning of the planification of project for next year. So this one is a motion to see, to hire the firm like to do the design of this project that will be done next year. So I will let our director to give some details of the submission we're seeing. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for this project, we're talking about engineering for the culvert replacement for the Pointe-du-Chêne. So it was recommended in the stormwater master plan. So this project is quite important because of the aging of the infrastructure in Pointe-du-Chêne. And Mr. Boudreau will be happy willing to mill and pave to do to save on costs, like to redo the road. So the Pointe-du-Chêne road is a good candidate, like for the mill and pave. So we got three prices, three proposals we went through like during an evaluation. So the recommendation and restriction is to go forward with Englobe for a quote of 90.33%. So we presented in the report like what was the different our different criteria for evaluations. So this is for the Pointe-du-Chêne project for 2027. I would need a motion. Someone, Councillor McElroy.
Be it resolved, the municipal council accept the recommendation of the administration to retain the professional services of Englobe for a total amount, excuse me, of $159,724.50 plus HST.
So moved by Councillor McElroy, seconded by Councillor Germaine Gallon. Tous en faveur, en diront oui.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Oh, it did not look. Councillor Roland-Cormier. I'm not against the project. I think we need to proceed with the project, but I'm questioning. I know, like we did an evaluation grade, so the numbers are quite close in terms of evaluation grades. The financial numbers are not close. They're still like a spread. So my major concern is that we can do the evaluation where they're close, but so my concern, like people will stop bidding, like the companies bid and they're the lowest bidder and we don't give them to them. So it does not encourage people to bid again, knowing there's possibility, even if the price is good or low, that they will be awarded the contract. I'm not familiar with the firm. I'm familiar with Englobe because we use them all the time. And I'm not questioning like the quality of the work they do of this organization. But with such a big difference, I will not support this motion, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cormier. Mr. Duclos, could you give us like maybe an idea? The evaluation grid, but each case is different. Often, like it's easy, like to give a lowest price, but not necessarily code the right thing we ask. So that's why our evaluation focus. There's 40% of the grid that's part of the price. It shows like it shows a price, and the price balances the scale, but we still have to remain. We have to quote like with the right the specs. Like we have to follow the specs of the town of Shediac, make sure everything is done properly. And there's a lot of things also coming with the methodology, work plan, level of effort, and also like some companies will quote lower, but they might not offer the same service. So it's when we evaluate like the entity of a proposal. So follow-up question. Thank you for the explanation. It's maybe a little bit clearer. It will guide another question. So will the proposal of CBCL, are there anything like Englobe is offering for, and the other is not offering? Is there a difference? Is it why like we're recommending the second one? Yes. So if we look at the point system, so the qualification, experience, and the experience of the team, work plan, methodology, and the quality of insurance, and also the schedule, has a good share of this. It's all things like Englobe quoted higher than CBCL in this case, in the analysis of the staff. Thank you for the specification. Councillor Paul Boudreau. So which culvert, Fred? Where is it located? Pointe du Chêne? It's just besides the post office. It's from Main Street to Greenwood Street. It's not a culvert. It's the road, like with the. It's with the. Yes, sorry, the full road. Is it part of the? Yes, it's in the Pointe du Chêne. Would be my next question. So it's like a sewer system. It's a provincial road. So will we get some help from the province because it's a municipal road up past Greenwood? So it's where the bridge is located, and it's within like the town limits. And after the bridge, it's a responsibility of the province, like 4115 and all. Nice try, but this is the responsibility of the Shediac taxpayer. Of the Shediac ward, I want to specify. Because some are paid only solely by the resident former Shediac. So on this note, all in favor saying 5, saying aye. Against nay.
No.
1 nay.
Adopté.
Motion carried.
15.2.
15.2, Overbridge sidewalk and water main.
Monsieur Duclos.
Mr. Duclos. So this one, well, I think we're familiar, like that little sidewalk portion of Beaubridge Street. So we talk about it from engineering. We're talking about the construction side of it. So we got the recommendation of our engineering firm, Metro Consultant, recommended to go forward with modern construction at $335,317. Our budget in engineering was $298,590. So we're close, $65,000 under budget. It's a small contract that would last 5 to 6 weeks, even mid-July until the end of August, to be ready, like for the school next school year that will start in September. Thank you. I simply need someone to read that motion. Councillor Bourg-Chavary. Thank you. Whereas, as part of the CALFA tender, the town of Shediac received 4 offers of service for the next Beaubridge project, sidewalks and water mains. Be it resolved that the municipal council accept the recommendations to award the contract to the lowest bidder, Modern Construction 1983 Limited, for a total amount of $335,317, including HST. Be it also resolved to have a provision for unforeseen circumstances, $39,850,000 HST included, be integrated with the project. Moved by Councillor Bourg-Chavary, seconded by Councillor Emile O'Brien. Questions on the motion? Councillor Paul Boudreau, all the same casting. So what is the timeline? So when does it start? When does it finish? from mid-July until the end of August. So mid-July until the end of, does it coordinate like with the opening at the other side of Beaubridge Street? Would be for the beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July. So we'll have a month and a half. So it's during the summer, meeting. We'll start like the sidewalk like before the beginning of the school year. Councilor Peterborough, so question of the amount of 39,000 for unforeseen circumstances. Isn't there like an amount like part of the contract or the quote like for 20% like for extra? In this case, that's why they put it, because there was no contingency included in the price he sent like from the contractors. So everyone, so no bidder like included in the bid tender for, so there were no line like for this one. So we added it like separately. Is it something we forgot, or is it? I think might have been what I forgot, but it wasn't done. Like, but we had the discussion that it was not included in the price, so that's why we wanted to add this contingency. And since we were under budget, we saw we had the possibility. Yes, we were still like under budget. It doesn't mean we will use it anyway. So the other like bidders, like they were not penalized because of this. No.
Donc, tous en faveur, on dira oui.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay.
Adopté.
Motion carried. Thank you to coordinate this for the beginning of the school year.
It's the
timing, like for timing is the essence for this project. So 15.3, so we have two like policies, internal policies, like for the staff. Our CEO, yes, Mr. Mayor. So one of those policies is not only for the staff, it includes like the council members. It's the policy like 2026-18 recognitions and gifts. And often, like we see, like lately, we have a policy that was obsolete, like to buy like flowers for a funeral, or it costs more. So we wanted to do some modification, and of course, to the policy, so to reflect like the increases of cost, like for recognitions, for each flower arrangement, for funerals, or for births and so on and so forth, for the council members or a staff member. So that's what we recommend also as an adjustment to the policy. And it will also, we got some information for neighboring municipality, and it's aligned with the other municipalities, what they're doing. Perfect. I need like a motion to start this. Councilor Lacombe. Be it resolved that the policy 2026-18 recognition and gifts be adopted as presented. Moved by Councilor Lacombe, seconded by Councilor Bourg-Chavarri. Questions on the motion? Councilor Paul Boudreau. How much does it cost in the budget every year, like for this one here? I would say it's not necessarily a big amount. I would say there's a discretionary amount by the council, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. So no, we're not talking about a big amount. Like it's within like the public relations of the council. Maybe like 15,000. We have 5 different items. I think it's 2,000-3,000 maybe. It's some specific occasion that doesn't happen every. I agree. Like it's just a comment. So when we accept policies, like shouldn't be added like. At the time of the budget, like we accept this condition, there's 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. I have no idea. So we accept a policy and we don't know how much cost. So we say we manage like taxpayer. I know it's very minimal. It's a very good point, but currently, like we do not see like any adjustment like to the budget. No. It's just like often it's an amount we budget and we do not always spend that amount. So we see like the adjustment, like we still manage them, but let's say like there would be, I don't want to mention like a pandemic or many like deaths or birds, or I do not want to create a precedent, like we accept policies without knowing how much it will cost. No, there's no instance of increasing in the budget because we will manage it like within the budget envelope, and we might be able to look into this like in the next budget and identify this. Recognition of municipalities like in spirit, and instead of giving a donation, they plant a tree or something. Could explore. On the motion, all in favor saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Next one. So the next policy, it's the dress code. We might have a language that existing in an old policy, but we want to improve the dress code. We want to put more specific guidelines with the dress code. So we're proposing this policy. Councillor Roland-Cormier, thank you. Be it resolved that the policy 2026-19 dress code be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Roland-Cormier, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Questions? None? All in favor saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 15.4. Le Hub patio. So I don't know if I should give like I will let Mr. Chevalier talk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So today we are presenting like a request to install like terrace, like a patio. It's located like in 326 Main Street. It's between like it's just a parking in front of the building at 326 Main Street. The Hub like submitted a request with downtown, and following like they eliminated like a parking to accommodate like that patio. So it had to come in front of the municipal council. That's what we are presenting this evening. So it's just like a request for a patio, like to bring like artists or singers and just storytellers to do some animation like downtown. So there were a consultation with the municipalities department and with also the owner of the building, and we have the support also for Shediac Downtown. We're supporting our request. Thank you. The activity is not for a restaurant, but it's the same type also in the infrastructure. Councillor Germaine Galland. So the Hub patio, be it resolved that the municipal council approved the administration recommendation to allow the use of public parking lot in front of the building located at 326 Main Street for the installation of a patio, ensuring compliance with all requirements of the downtown patio policy. I shall move by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Émile O'Brien. Questions on the motion? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very good initiative from the Hub. I love like some patios on Main Street, but my question, do we have a policy or something for in place, like for the amount of patios we could have on Main Street, just to make sure like we have a percentage also of parking on our Main Street?
La réponse simple est non, on n'a pas de...
So the answer, simple answer is no, we do not have a policy, except like the only policy we have is some specific use, the size, and also the process, liability, insurance, proof of insurance. So the materials had to be traditional, like metal and wood, and more aesthetic also for the number of patios allowed. I would say like other municipalities, they have like a policy, they might charge like for parking, but the patio has to absorb like a certain amount of money that is that would not allow the municipality like to get the revenue for the parking. But the parking for us on Main Street is free, so we do not have like the same dynamic. But the municipality, in other municipality, so the downtown, is it looking at how many parking we are taking in the summer with this patio, or because usually like yes, I just love those patio. I wouldn't like to we would have no parking whatsoever like on Main Street for our citizens, because we know like there's a lack of parking downtown, and I wouldn't want to be in this situation, but we would only have patio and no parking. But in a sense, like for all requests of this nature, the council has to adopt them. So maybe like at the 18th one, or we say before, no, we have too many. It's still at the discretion of the council, and the next council might look into to develop some kind of policy here. We do not have one currently, but traditionally we do not have a lot of requests. It would be interesting, like for downtown, like once they ask like to have a percentage, maybe, so we can make an educated decision. So we know what we are getting into. It's well noted. Councillor Peterborough, thank you. I have to vote like against Councillor Cormier, because I think if we want to help our downtown, and I think in the summer offering like nothing happening like on the Main Street, and patio also should be encouraged. And I think it brings like a special like look, and I understand like the parking, but if we look in the studies like we shouldn't have like a parking on Main Street. We still have some parking lots, but and I think we should encourage strongly like business owners who want to have patios, and it gives like a good ambiance. And I know like a downtown, like they're backing this type of development, and I think we should encourage like the business owners to do this. It's not in the winter, because during winter like the parking spots come back, but that's something we should do. I will really support this motion, Mr. Mayor. Seeing no other questions, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Number 16.1 is appointment to committee. I recommend for the MADA committee. It's the for seniors, like Mrs. Jean Short. If you know her husband Wade, like especially like with the flying boat, his wife, like she's a yoga chair yoga trainer. Before I knew her, I didn't know it even existed. Might be something I'll have to do in my later years. Thank you.
The town of Shediac's Age-Friendly Municipalities Committee has been very active since its relaunch in 2024, and several members have been approved. Be it resolved that Jean Short be added to the municipalities MADA committee.
So moved by Councillor Harry McEnroy, seconded by Councillor Patricia Bourg-Chavary. Question, Conseil Paul Boudreau.
It's not a question, a comment. I'm a liaison of that committee, and I would like to thank Diet, like she's working in that field. We meet very often, and Mrs. Short appointments comes directly like from the consultation we had with the Pointe du Chien.
She was there and she participated, and that's the way that we recruited Jean to be part of the committee. So we're looking forward to working with her with the MADA. I don't know if we translate that, but anyway, she's quite enthusiastic to join the movement. So, merci pour la nominer.
Plaisir.
Thanks for nominating her.
So, on that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Avant de dire quand est-ce qu'on se réunit.
Before we see when we meet the next time,
Il y avait vraiment un texte là.
there was really like a text.
Ah ouais. C'est vrai, une réunion extraordinaire.
We have a special meeting. I wanted to take the opportunity, like a few words. As the deputy mayor, like she surprised with a very good, kind words.
Ouais, ouais. Après 7 ans.
After 7 years, like in this chair, and 14 years around that table, so this evening was my last regular meeting as Shediac Municipal Council. Through all those years, I hope I contributed to the evolution of our community. Oh, switch. En plus de
I would like to thank council members seated around this table, as well as those with whom I have served before, and including our administrative team. C'est en bonne partie en raison de vous que j'ai appris.
It's mainly because of you. I learned, I grew like through all my years here. I was able to appreciate it, the collaborative work between us and the citizen of Shediac, on top of representing our community like regional, provincial, and Atlantic levels, national and international levels. We have also like a twin city, like in Louisiana, like Beaubridge. I was able to create many relations with you and most of the municipal sector, and it's because of what I will miss the most. I hope like you appreciated my efforts during my terms as a mayor throughout the pandemic, a municipal reform that amalgamating us with municipalities, and also a strategic plan and a multiple contribution to the province, the development of new mandate at the regional level, and also like a major transformation of our administration team.
No matter the issue, I've always tried to do what's best for our community. However, unlike almost every other municipality, it has been my absolute pleasure to serve as mayor of the lobster capital of the world. No one else gets to boast about this, except for our twin community of Beaubridge, the crawfish capital of the world. En adoptant une analogie de pêche.
Adopting like a fishing analogy, since I was in the lobster, I'm convinced like because of the work we were accomplished, like the future years of Shediac will be very fruitful. I thank you all. And I wish you like good elections and good luck. Next meeting will be Thursday, May 7th. It's a special meeting to finish a couple of files. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later. Thank you. Last meeting, and I will be gone. It's your day. Thank you very much. Have a good evening or rest of the evening.